What if the reason you keep suffering is not because life is too difficult, but because your mind is still controlled by what it desires, fears, and refuses to release? You chase people who are willing to lose you. You seek attention from those who barely notice you. You fear endings, rejection, uncertainty, and the possibility of standing alone. And without realizing it, you hand your peace to everything outside yourself. But the moment you stop needing, stop fearing, and stop chasing, something powerful begins to change. People lose their control over your emotions. Loss no longer destroys your identity. Silence no longer feels like rejection. You become calm, complete, and impossible to manipulate. These 12 Buddhist lessons will show you how to master the mind that has been secretly mastering you. Listen carefully, because by the end of this journey, you may no longer recognize the version of yourself that once begged life to stay the same. 1. Destroy the desires that secretly control your mind. Most people believe they are making free choices, but many of their decisions are quietly controlled by desire. The desire to be admired makes them seek attention. The desire to be loved makes them tolerate disrespect. The desire to succeed quickly makes them compare their journey with everyone else. Desire itself is not always dangerous, but it becomes a prison when your peace depends on getting what you want. The mind says, I must have this person, this result, this approval, or this opportunity. The moment you believe that thought, fear enters. You fear rejection, delay, failure, and loss. Then you begin chasing, forcing, and overthinking. You stop living peacefully because your happiness is tied to an outcome you cannot control. Buddhist wisdom teaches that freedom begins when you observe desire without immediately obeying it. When a strong craving appears, pause and ask, do I truly need this, or am I afraid of feeling incomplete without it? This simple question exposes the hidden attachment. You do not have to destroy every goal or stop caring about life. You must destroy the belief that one person, possession, or achievement has the power to complete you. Pursue what matters, but remain peaceful if life chooses another path. The moment desire stops commanding your mind, fear weakens, clarity returns, and you finally become the master of your own inner world. 2. Stop needing attention to feel worthy. Many people do not truly chase love. They chase proof that they matter. A message, compliment, invitation, or moment of praise makes them feel valuable, but silence makes them question themselves. When attention becomes the source of your worth, other people begin controlling your emotions without even trying. Their approval lifts you, their distance breaks you, and their silence fills your mind with painful questions. Buddhist wisdom teaches that your value does not increase when someone notices you, and it does not disappear when someone ignores you. Attention is temporary and unreliable. The same people who praise you today may forget you tomorrow. If your confidence depends on their reaction, your peace will always remain unstable. Begin doing meaningful things without waiting to be seen. Improve yourself privately, keep your promises when nobody is watching, and learn to enjoy moments that cannot be posted or praised. When you feel the urge to seek validation, pause and ask, would I still do this if nobody knew? That question reveals whether you are acting from purpose or hunger for attention. You do not need to become invisible or reject appreciation. You simply need to stop using attention as evidence that you are enough. When your worth comes from your character, discipline, and inner awareness, praise becomes enjoyable but unnecessary. Then people may notice you or overlook you, yet your peace remains untouched. 3. Face your fears until they lose their power. Fear becomes stronger every time you obey it. When you avoid a difficult conversation, delay an important decision, or remain trapped in an unhealthy situation, your mind learns that discomfort is dangerous. The more you run, the larger the fear becomes. Soon, even a small challenge feels impossible because you have trained yourself to escape instead of endure. Buddhist wisdom teaches that fear is often created by the stories your mind tells about the future. You imagine rejection before speaking, failure before trying, and loss before anything has happened. The body reacts to these thoughts as if the danger were already real. But fear is not always a warning. Sometimes it is simply uncertainty, asking whether you trust yourself. Do not wait until fear disappears before taking action. Walk forward while your hands tremble. Speak honestly, even when your voice feels weak. Begin the task before confidence arrives. Each time you face what frightens you, your mind receives new evidence. This feeling is uncomfortable, but it cannot destroy me. Start with one small act of courage. Make the call, set the boundary, take the first step, or release what you have outgrown. Fear loses power when it is examined closely and faced repeatedly. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that your life will no longer be controlled by it. 4. Never chase anyone who is willing to lose you. One of the most painful mistakes people make is chasing someone who has already shown that they are willing to live without them. The mind refuses to accept the distance, so it begins searching for explanations. You reread old messages, remember better days, question what went wrong, and convince yourself that one more conversation might restore everything. You tell yourself that if you explain your feelings more clearly, become more patient, or prove your value, they may finally recognize what they are losing. But when a person repeatedly chooses distance, your chasing rarely creates love. It only teaches them that they can withdraw while you continue carrying the entire connection. There is a difference between fighting for a meaningful relationship and begging someone to participate in it. Healthy love requires effort from both sides. Both people communicate, take responsibility, and try to repair what has been damaged. Chasing begins when only one person is making calls, starting conversations, seeking clarity, forgiving repeated neglect, and trying to keep the bond alive. At that point, you are no longer protecting love. You are protecting your fear of being left. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering grows when we cling to what is changing. People change, feelings shift, priorities move, and some relationships reach their natural ending. The mind suffers because it argues with this reality. It says, this person must remain, they must return, they must love me the way they once did. The stronger this demand becomes, the more power you give away. Your mood begins depending on their messages. Your confidence falls when they remain silent. Your entire day becomes controlled by the behavior of someone who may not even be thinking about you. You may believe you are chasing the person, but often you are chasing the version of yourself you felt like when they wanted you. You miss the attention, the comfort, the routine, and the hope of a future you imagined together. You are not only grieving who they are now, you are grieving who you hoped they would become. This is why letting go feels so difficult. You are not releasing one person. You are releasing memories, expectations, dreams, and the identity you built around the relationship. But no genuine connection should require you to abandon your dignity. If you must constantly prove that you deserve respect, attention, or consistency, the relationship is already teaching you a painful truth. Love may require patience, but it should not require humiliation. It may demand honesty, but it should not demand that you beg for basic clarity. Someone who truly values your presence may make mistakes, but they will not repeatedly make you feel that caring about you is a burden. When someone creates distance, do not immediately run after them. Step back and observe. Silence often reveals what constant communication hides. When you stop initiating, you discover whether they ever intended to meet you halfway. When you stop explaining, you see whether they are willing to understand without being forced. When you stop rescuing the connection, you learn whether it can survive without your constant effort. This does not mean becoming cold, manipulative, or proud. Do not withdraw merely to make someone chase you. That is still attachment, wearing a different face. Step back because you respect reality. Step back because peace cannot grow where uncertainty is deliberately maintained. Step back because you deserve to know whether someone chooses you freely, not because you exhausted yourself persuading them. The urge to chase usually becomes strongest when you feel rejected. Rejection awakens old wounds. It may remind you of being ignored, abandoned, or made to feel unworthy in the past. Suddenly, the present situation becomes larger than one relationship. You are no longer trying only to keep one person. You are trying to prove that you are lovable. This is why chasing can become so intense. You believe that if they return, your worth will be restored. But another person's decision cannot determine your value. Someone may leave because they are confused, emotionally unavailable, afraid of commitment, interested in another path, or simply unable to appreciate what you offer. Their choice may hurt you, but it does not define you. A closed door does not mean the person standing outside has no worth. It only means that particular door is not opening. You must learn to sit with the discomfort of not reaching out. At first, silence may feel unbearable. Your mind will create reasons to contact them. It will tell you that you need closure, one final answer, or one more chance to express yourself. Pause before acting. Ask whether the message will truly bring peace or simply reopen the wound. Ask whether you are seeking clarity or temporary relief from loneliness. Often, the urge to reach out passes when you allow the emotion to rise and fall without obeying it. Let their actions become the answer. Repeated inconsistency is an answer. Deliberate silence is an answer. Lack of effort is an answer. A person does not need to announce that they are willing to lose you when their behavior has already shown it. Accepting this truth may hurt, but denying it will hurt much longer. Walking away does not mean you never cared. It means you finally included yourself among the people deserving of your care. You can love someone and still recognize that their presence is destroying your peace. You can miss them and still refuse to return to the same cycle. You can forgive them without reopening the door. Detachment is not hatred. It is the decision to stop forcing what life is trying to release. The strongest thing you can do is allow people to make their choices and then make your own. If they choose distance, choose dignity. If they choose confusion, choose clarity. If they choose inconsistency, choose peace. Do not spend your life standing at a door that someone repeatedly closes. The right people will not require endless chasing. They will communicate, make effort, and show through consistent actions that your presence matters. You will not have to decode every silence or question every change in their behavior. Their care may not be perfect, but it will be visible. Never chase anyone who is willing to lose you, because every step you take towards someone who keeps walking away is a step away from yourself. Let them go without revenge, bitterness, or dramatic explanations. Allow the distance to teach you what closeness prevented you from seeing. Sometimes losing someone is not the end of your peace. Sometimes it is the beginning of it. 5. Stop begging to be understood by everyone. One of the most exhausting habits of the mind is the constant need to explain yourself. You explain why you made a decision, why you walked away, why you stayed silent, why you changed, why you needed distance, and why something hurt you. You keep searching for the perfect words, hoping that if you speak clearly enough, everyone will finally see your heart correctly. But some people do not misunderstand you because your explanation is weak. They misunderstand you because they have already decided which version of you they want to believe. The need to be understood often comes from a deeper fear. The fear of being seen as wrong, selfish, ungrateful, difficult, or unworthy. You imagine that if someone holds a negative opinion of you, your value has somehow been damaged, so you defend yourself again and again. You repeat the same truth in different words. You offer more details, more evidence, and more emotional energy. Yet the more you explain, the more powerless you feel, because your peace is now waiting for another person's approval. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering grows when we try to control what cannot be controlled. You can control your intentions, your actions, and the honesty of your words. You cannot control the way another person interprets them. Every mind sees through its own conditioning. People hear you through the wounds they have not healed, the assumptions they already carry, the jealousy they refuse to admit, and the expectations they placed upon you without your consent. Even the clearest truth can become distorted inside a mind that is committed to misunderstanding it. Think about how often two people witness the same event and remember it differently. One sees confidence, another sees arrogance. One sees silence, another sees disrespect. One sees a boundary, another sees rejection. One sees growth, another sees betrayal. The action may be the same, but the meaning changes inside each observer. This is why trying to control every opinion is an impossible task. You are not speaking to empty minds. You are speaking to people carrying their own stories. There is nothing wrong with explaining yourself once when a relationship deserves honesty. Clear communication is important. If someone cares about you, listens openly, and wants to understand, speak with patience. Give context. Admit your mistakes, clarify your intentions, but learn to recognize the moment communication turns into begging. Begging begins when you are no longer sharing truth, you are fighting to force someone to accept it. You feel that you cannot rest until they agree with your version. At that point, the conversation is no longer about understanding, it is about your fear of being misjudged. Some people will continue misunderstanding you, because your truth would require them to examine their own behavior. If they admit that you had a reason to walk away, they may have to admit that they hurt you. If they acknowledge your boundary, they may have to face the fact that they crossed it. If they accept that you have changed, they may lose the power they once held over you. Misunderstanding you becomes easier than taking responsibility for themselves. You may spend hours explaining your pain to someone who benefits from pretending they never caused it. You may try to prove your loyalty to a person who already decided to question it. You may defend your character to people who only feel comfortable when you doubt yourself. No amount of perfect language can open a mind that has closed itself. This is where silence becomes strength. Silence does not always mean you have no answer. Sometimes it means you no longer need the argument. You know what happened. You know your intentions. You know the private battles you fought before making your decision. You know how many times you tried before you finally stepped away. Not everyone deserves access to the full story. The mature mind learns the difference between accountability and self-betrayal. Accountability says, I may have caused harm, and I am willing to listen, apologize, and improve. Self-betrayal says, I must keep shrinking, apologizing, and explaining until everyone feels comfortable with my choices. One helps you grow. The other teaches you to abandon yourself for acceptance. You will sometimes be wrong. Wisdom does not mean assuming that every criticism is unfair. When several trustworthy people point out the same harmful pattern, pay attention. When someone speaks with honesty rather than cruelty, listen carefully. A peaceful person is not someone who rejects all correction. A peaceful person can examine themselves without collapsing. But self-reflection is different from surrendering your identity to every accusation. You can ask, is there truth in what they are saying, without immediately believing, everything they say about me must be true. Consider the criticism, learn what is useful, and release what is only projection. You do not have to carry every opinion simply because someone delivered it with confidence. The need to be understood is especially painful in close relationships. When strangers misunderstand you, it may be irritating. When someone you love misunderstands you, it can feel devastating. You think, after everything we shared, how can they believe this about me? You begin reminding them of your loyalty, sacrifices, and intentions. You hope the history between you will make them see clearly, but emotional closeness does not always create emotional maturity. Someone can know your past and still judge your present unfairly. They can remember your kindness and still focus on the one time you said no. They can receive years of support and call you selfish the moment you protect yourself. This hurts because you expected your love to guarantee understanding. It cannot. A boundary will often disappoint the people who benefited from your lack of one. When you stop answering every call, solving every problem, or accepting disrespect, some people will not say, "You are finally protecting your peace." They may say, "You have changed." They may call you cold, distant, proud, or difficult. Their reaction does not automatically mean your boundary is wrong. Sometimes it only means the old version of you was easier for them to control. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood during periods of growth. Every transformation creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. People who only knew the obedient version of you may resist the confident version. Those who depended on your silence may dislike your honesty. Those who expected endless access may become angry when you close the door. Do not return to an unhealthy pattern simply to protect your reputation. A temporary misunderstanding is less dangerous than a lifetime of self-abandonment. You are not required to destroy your peace so someone else can continue believing that you are easy to use. Imagine carrying a mirror through a crowded street and asking every person to approve the reflection. One person says you should smile more. Another says you look too happy. One says you are too quiet. Another says you speak too much. One admires your confidence. Another feels threatened by it. If you change yourself for every opinion, you will never know who you truly are. The mind becomes steady when it stops chasing a perfect image in the eyes of others. You do not need everyone to think you are kind. Be kind. You do not need everyone to believe you are honest. Live honestly. You do not need everyone to understand your journey. Keep walking it with awareness. Your character is built through repeated choices, not public explanations. Over time, consistent actions reveal more than emotional arguments ever could. You may not be able to change what people say today, but you can continue living in a way that keeps your conscience clear. Truth does not always win quickly, but it does not become false simply because someone refuses to see it. There will also be moments when no explanation is necessary because the person asking is not seeking understanding. Some questions are invitations to conflict. Some people request details only so they can use them against you later. Others pretend to care while secretly collecting weaknesses, contradictions, and private information. Discernment means knowing who deserves honesty and who only wants access. You do not owe the full story of your pain to people who treated your vulnerability as entertainment. You do not owe endless explanations to someone who repeatedly ignored the first one. You do not owe clarity to those who enjoy keeping you defensive. The moment you realize this, your energy returns. Before explaining yourself, pause and ask 4 questions. Is this person listening with an open heart? Have they shown that they respect the truth? Is this explanation likely to bring clarity, or will it create another argument? Am I speaking because communication is needed, or because I am afraid of their opinion? These questions can save you from many draining conversations. Sometimes the wisest response is brief and calm. I understand that you see it differently. That sentence does not admit guilt. It does not attack. It simply releases you from the struggle to force agreement. You can allow another person to keep their interpretation without making it your identity. They may believe you are wrong. Let them. They may tell others a version that leaves out your pain. Let time reveal what explanations cannot. They may never understand your decision. Accept that possibility. Acceptance does not mean their judgment is fair. It means you have stopped sacrificing your life in an attempt to correct every misunderstanding. You are choosing your inner stability over an endless trial in someone else's mind. There is a quiet freedom in knowing that you no longer need to attend every argument about your character. You do not have to fight every rumor, answer every accusation, or correct every false interpretation. Some battles only pull you away from the life you are trying to build. The people who truly know you will look at your pattern, not one moment. They will listen before judging. They will ask questions without attacking. They will leave room for your humanity. They may disagree with you, but they will not require you to beg for dignity. And those who refuse to understand you may be revealing the limit of the relationship. Not every person is capable of meeting you at the depth where honesty lives. Some only understand control, obedience, and convenience. When you stop providing those things, they may stop calling you good. Let them misunderstand you. You are not here to become acceptable to every mind you encounter. You are here to become honest within your own. Speak when truth can build a bridge. Remain silent when explanation only feeds conflict. Apologize when you are wrong. Stand firm when you are not. The moment you stop begging to be understood, you stop living as a prisoner of other people's interpretations. Your mind becomes quieter. Your decisions become clearer. Your energy returns to the life in front of you. You may still feel pain when someone judges you unfairly, but pain no longer forces you to chase them. You learn to say, their opinion belongs to them. My responsibility is to live truthfully. That is freedom, not being understood by everyone, but no longer abandoning yourself in the attempt. 6. Master uncertainty without losing your inner peace. Uncertainty is one of the mind's greatest fears because it removes the illusion of control. You do not know whether a relationship will survive, whether a decision will succeed, whether a person will return, whether your effort will be rewarded, or whether the future will unfold the way you hope. The mind dislikes this open space, so it begins creating answers before reality has provided them. It imagines rejection, failure, betrayal, loss, embarrassment, and regret. Soon, you are no longer responding to what is actually happening. You are suffering inside a future that exists only in your thoughts. The desire for certainty often appears reasonable. You tell yourself that you simply need clarity before you can relax. You want someone to promise they will never leave. You want proof that your plan will work before you begin. You want to know that your choice is correct before you take responsibility for it. But life rarely gives complete guarantees. Even when someone gives you reassurance today, circumstances may change tomorrow. Even the safest plan can fail, and even the most frightening path can lead to something beautiful. If your peace depends on knowing exactly what happens next, your peace will always remain fragile. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering does not come only from uncertainty itself. Much of it comes from resisting uncertainty and demanding that reality reveal everything immediately. The mind says, I must know where this is going. I must know what they feel. I must know whether I will be safe. These demands create tension because life is under no obligation to answer according to your preferred schedule. You may have experienced nights when your body was tired, but your mind refused to rest. One question kept repeating, what if? What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I made the wrong decision? What if things never improve? Each question opens another door, and behind every door, the mind places a new disaster. You keep thinking because you believe enough thought will create certainty, but overthinking rarely produces wisdom. It usually produces exhaustion. There is a difference between thoughtful preparation and anxious prediction. Preparation looks at what can be controlled and takes practical action. Anxiety tries to control what has not happened. Preparation says, I will do my best, create a plan, and respond when new information arrives. Anxiety says, I must mentally experience every possible outcome before I can feel safe. One strengthens you, the other keeps you trapped. Mastering uncertainty does not mean becoming careless. It does not mean ignoring risks, refusing to plan, or pretending that nothing matters. It means accepting that after you have done what is reasonable, there will still be things outside your control. You can prepare for a conversation, but you cannot control the other person's reaction. You can work sincerely, but you cannot force immediate success. You can love someone deeply, but you cannot guarantee that their feelings will never change. Inner peace begins when you stop asking your effort to control the entire universe. The mind often believes certainty will protect it from pain. It thinks that if it can predict an ending, the ending will hurt less. If it expects rejection, it will not feel surprised. If it imagines failure, it will be prepared. But suffering in advance does not protect you from suffering later. It only makes you experience pain twice, once in imagination and once in reality. If the feared event even happens, many of the disasters you once feared never occurred. Other difficulties arrived in forms you never predicted, yet you survived them. This reveals an important truth. You do not need the ability to predict everything. You need the ability to meet what arrives. A peaceful mind does not say, "Nothing difficult will happen." It says, "Whatever happens, I will respond with awareness." This shift changes everything. You stop trying to control every outcome and begin developing trust in your own ability to adapt. Think about the situations that currently create uncertainty in your life. Perhaps someone has become distant and you do not know what they are thinking. Perhaps you are waiting for an answer that could change your future. Perhaps you are standing between two choices and fear regretting whichever one you make. The mind wants immediate resolution, but sometimes the wisest thing you can do is remain still long enough for reality to reveal itself. Not every unanswered question requires pursuit. Some answers become visible through time. A person's intentions become clear through consistency. A decision becomes easier when emotions settle. A path reveals itself after you take one honest step. When you force clarity too early, you may accept false reassurance simply because it feels better than waiting. This is why people remain in confusing relationships. They cannot tolerate uncertainty, so they accept vague promises as certainty. They hear, "maybe one day," and treat it like commitment. They receive a little attention after long silence and call it love. The mind prefers a painful illusion to an honest unknown, because at least the illusion feels like an answer. But false certainty creates deeper suffering. It keeps you attached to situations that reality is already asking you to examine. Sometimes not knowing is not the problem. Sometimes refusing to see what the present behavior already shows is the problem. You do not need to know every detail of the future to understand what is happening today. Ask yourself, is this situation peaceful or constantly confusing? Are actions matching words? Am I being respected now, or am I surviving on promises about later? Is this path helping me grow, or am I staying only because leaving feels uncertain? Bring your attention back from the imagined future to the visible present. The present may not answer everything, but it often gives enough information for the next wise step. The need for certainty can also keep you trapped in places you have outgrown. You may remain in an unfulfilling job, a painful relationship, or a familiar pattern because the alternative is unknown. The mind says, "At least I understand this pain." It would rather suffer predictably than risk changing. But familiar suffering is still suffering. Certainty does not make an unhealthy situation safe. Sometimes the door in front of you is unclear because you have never walked through it before. That does not mean the door is wrong. Courage is often the ability to move without complete assurance. Every meaningful transformation begins with uncertainty. The person who starts a new life does not know every challenge ahead. The person who leaves disrespect does not know when healthier love will come. The person who begins healing does not know how long it will take. They move because remaining where they are has become more painful than facing the unknown. You do not need complete confidence before taking action. Confidence often develops after you begin. The mind waits for certainty, but life rewards movement, guided by awareness. When uncertainty enters, observe what happens inside you. Your body may tighten. Your breathing may become shallow. Your thoughts may speed up. Before solving the situation, calm the body. Take a slow breath and notice what is physically present. Feel your feet on the ground. Relax your shoulders. Look around the room. Remind yourself, In this moment, I am here. This thought is not the event itself. This simple return to the body interrupts the mind's journey into imaginary danger. You cannot always stop uncertain thoughts from appearing, but you can stop treating every thought as a prophecy. A thought such as, "they may leave," is not the same as "they are leaving." A thought such as, "I might fail," is not proof of failure. A thought such as, "something could go wrong," does not mean disaster is approaching. The anxious mind speaks in possibilities and then reacts as if they are facts. Learn to separate what you know from what you fear. Write down the facts of the situation, then write down the story your mind is creating. You may discover that the facts are small while the story has become enormous. For example, the fact may be, "they have not replied today." The story becomes, "they no longer care, they are leaving, I have done something wrong, and I will be alone." The mind travels from one unanswered message to a complete emotional tragedy. Seeing this clearly weakens its power. Say to yourself, "I do not have enough information yet." This is more honest than choosing the worst interpretation. You do not have to fill every silence with fear. At the same time, do not use uncertainty as an excuse to ignore repeated patterns. There is a difference between one unclear moment and a long history of inconsistency. Peace does not mean pretending you cannot see what is obvious. If someone repeatedly creates confusion, the pattern itself provides information. You may not know their deepest reason, but you know how their behavior affects your life. You do not need every explanation before setting a boundary. You do not need to know why someone disrespects you before deciding that disrespect is unacceptable. You do not need complete certainty about the future before protecting your present. Mastering uncertainty requires learning which questions belong to you and which do not. What do they secretly think may not belong to you. How will everything end may not belong to you. Will I ever be hurt again cannot be answered. But other questions are yours. What choice reflects my values today? What action protects my dignity? What can I do with the information I currently have? What kind of person do I want to be while I wait? These questions return your power. The future becomes less frightening when you stop trying to live all of it at once. You do not need strength for the next 10 years today. You need enough strength for this moment. You do not need the full map. You need the next honest step. Imagine walking through thick fog. You cannot see the entire road, but you can see a few steps ahead. If you refuse to move until the fog disappears, you may remain in the same place forever. But if you walk carefully using the small amount of visibility available, the next part of the road slowly appears. Life often works this way. Clarity follows movement. You act with the best understanding you have. Observe what happens and adjust. Wisdom is not always knowing the perfect answer before beginning. Sometimes wisdom is remaining awake while the answer develops. There will be choices where no option feels completely safe. Every path may involve some loss. Staying may cost your peace. Leaving may cost familiarity. Speaking may create conflict. Silence may create distance. You search for a decision without pain, but none exists. In such moments, do not ask only, which choice feels less frightening? Ask, which choice keeps me closest to truth, dignity, and growth? Fear often chooses familiarity. Wisdom chooses alignment. After making a decision, resist the habit of mentally reopening it every hour. The mind may ask whether you chose correctly, but no decision can be lived fully if you remain divided. Once you have reflected honestly, gathered the available information, and chosen according to your values, give the decision space. New information may require adjustment later, but constant doubt will not improve the present. You must also release the belief that a wrong choice will destroy your life. Some decisions may create difficulty, but difficulty can be corrected. A path can change, a mistake can teach, an ending can redirect you. Your life is not a fragile object that shatters permanently because one moment was imperfect. This belief reduces the terror of uncertainty. You understand that even if events do not unfold as hoped, you will still have choices. Some people try to escape uncertainty through control. They monitor others, demand constant updates, question every change in tone, and seek repeated reassurance. For a moment, control creates relief, but it also destroys trust and increases dependence. The more reassurance you receive, the more reassurance you need. True security cannot come from forcing people to behave predictably. It comes from knowing that you will not abandon yourself if they do not. You may not control whether someone remains loyal, but you can refuse to ignore betrayal. You may not control whether they stay, but you can choose not to beg. You may not control whether a plan succeeds, but you can continue learning and adapting. This is inner security. The calm person is not calm because life promised stability. They are calm because they stopped demanding stability from everything outside themselves. Uncertainty can even become a teacher. It exposes where you have placed too much dependence. If one delayed answer destroys your day, perhaps your peace has become attached to another person's response. If one uncertain result makes you question your entire worth, perhaps achievement has become your identity. If change terrifies you, perhaps comfort has become your prison. Instead of asking only, "How can I remove this uncertainty?" ask, "What is this uncertainty revealing about my attachment?" Perhaps it is teaching you patience. Perhaps it is showing you that you need stronger boundaries. Perhaps it is asking you to stop chasing control. Perhaps it is revealing that you have survived by predicting everyone's behavior instead of trusting your own judgment. The unknown is uncomfortable, but it also contains possibility. The future you fear has not happened, but neither has the future that may surprise you. The door that closes may redirect you towards something you could not imagine while clinging to the old path. The person who leaves may create space for deeper self-respect. The plan that fails may expose a stronger direction. You do not need to force optimism or pretend every loss is immediately beautiful. Some uncertainty is painful, and some outcomes will hurt. Inner peace is not denial. It is the ability to feel fear without allowing fear to rule every decision. When the future feels heavy, return to this truth. You have already survived days you once feared you could not survive. You have adapted to changes you never requested. You have continued after disappointment, confusion, and loss. You may not have handled every moment perfectly, but you are still here. Let your past resilience become evidence that you can meet what comes next. Practice saying, "I do not know, and I can still remain peaceful." These words are powerful because they stop the argument with reality. You are not pretending to possess answers. You are choosing not to collapse without them. You can wait without putting your entire life on hold. You can hope without clinging. You can plan without demanding. You can love without requiring guarantees. You can move forward without seeing the whole road. When uncertainty appears, do what is yours to do. Speak honestly. Prepare carefully. Protect your boundaries. Take the next step. Then release what does not belong to you. Do not spend today trying to control every version of tomorrow. The mind becomes free when it finally understands that peace does not come from knowing everything. Peace comes from trusting that you can face what you do not yet know. You may not know who will stay, which plans will succeed, or how your story will unfold. But you can know how you will meet life, with awareness instead of panic, dignity instead of desperation, and courage instead of endless avoidance. That is how uncertainty loses its power, not because the future becomes predictable, but because your inner world becomes steady enough to enter it. 7. Walk away the moment disrespect becomes a pattern. The first time someone disrespects you, you may question whether it was intentional. The second time, you may excuse it because they were stressed, angry, tired, or going through something difficult. But when disrespect becomes a pattern, the truth is no longer hidden. What once looked like a mistake has become a habit, and what you keep tolerating begins teaching the other person how little effort is required to keep access to you. Many people remain in disrespectful relationships because they are waiting for one dramatic moment that will justify leaving. They imagine disrespect must always look like shouting, betrayal, or public humiliation, but repeated disrespect often arrives quietly. It can appear as broken promises, dismissive jokes, constant criticism, cold silence, manipulation, ignored boundaries, and affection that disappears whenever you refuse to obey. A person does not have to raise their voice to make you feel small. They can disrespect you by treating your time as unimportant, your feelings as inconvenient, your boundaries as negotiable, and your forgiveness as guaranteed. They may apologize beautifully, behave well for a few days, and then return to the same pattern once they believe the danger of losing you has passed. The painful truth is that disrespect rarely destroys a relationship in one moment. It slowly changes the person receiving it. You become quieter because speaking leads to conflict. You stop expressing your needs because they are mocked or ignored. You begin questioning your own memory because every harmful incident is denied or rewritten. Eventually, you are no longer asking whether the relationship is healthy. You are asking how much more of yourself you must sacrifice to keep it alive. Buddhist wisdom teaches that compassion must include awareness. Kindness without wisdom can become self-neglect. Patience without boundaries can become permission. Forgiveness without change can become an invitation for the same wound to be created again. You may understand why someone behaves badly. Perhaps they were raised around anger. Perhaps they carry unhealed pain. Perhaps they fear abandonment, struggle with insecurity, or never learned how to communicate with respect. Understanding their wounds may help you release hatred, but it does not require you to become the place where those wounds are repeatedly expressed. You can have compassion for someone and still recognize that their behavior is harming you. You can wish them healing while refusing to remain close enough to be damaged by their refusal to heal. Compassion does not mean standing still while another person repeatedly attacks your peace. One of the reasons people tolerate disrespect is because they remember who the person was at the beginning. They remember the attention, kindness, promises, and moments that made the connection feel safe. They keep comparing the present behavior with the person they first met, hoping that version will return. But you cannot build a peaceful life around someone's potential. You must respond to their pattern. Potential says they could become better. A pattern shows who they are consistently choosing to be. Potential lives in your imagination. A pattern lives in their repeated actions. When a person hurts you once and takes responsibility, that can be a mistake. When they hurt you repeatedly, apologize only when consequences appear and then continue. The apology is not change. It is part of the cycle. A sincere apology contains three things: recognition of the harm, responsibility without excuses, and behavior that becomes different over time. Words without transformation only calm the situation long enough for the pattern to continue. Do not confuse temporary kindness with permanent change. Some people become gentle only when they feel you pulling away. They listen when they fear losing access, make promises when you finally set a boundary, and show affection when they sense that your patience is ending. But as soon as you stay, the old behavior slowly returns. This is why you must watch patterns more carefully than emotional moments. Anyone can behave well for one evening. Anyone can say the perfect words when consequences arrive. Character is revealed through consistency, especially when the person is frustrated, disappointed, or no longer trying to impress you. Disrespect becomes especially dangerous when you begin adapting to it. What once shocked you starts feeling normal. You lower your standards to reduce conflict. You tell yourself that every relationship has problems, everyone makes mistakes, and nobody is perfect. These statements are true, but they can become excuses when used to protect repeated harm. Imperfection is not the same as cruelty. Conflict is not the same as humiliation. A difficult season is not the same as a permanent pattern of manipulation, contempt, and disregard. Healthy relationships can contain disagreement without destroying dignity. Two people can be angry and still refuse to insult each other. They can need space without using silence as punishment. They can make mistakes without blaming the wounded person for reacting. They can disagree with a boundary without repeatedly crossing it. Respect is not proven when everything is easy. It is proven when emotions are intense and the other person still remembers your humanity. Pay attention to what happens when you say no. A respectful person may feel disappointed, but they do not punish you for having limits. A disrespectful person treats your boundary like a personal attack. They may become cold, angry, sarcastic, or suddenly distant. Their kindness was not freely given. It was dependent on your compliance. This reveals an important truth. Some people do not love who you are. They love how easily they can access, influence, or use you. The moment you become harder to control, they accuse you of changing. They say you are selfish, cold, ungrateful, dramatic, or difficult. These words are meant to make you doubt the boundary and return to the version of yourself that served them better. Do not allow guilt to force you back into disrespect. Guilt is not always proof that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it is simply the discomfort of doing something new. If you spent years saying yes, your first no may feel cruel. If you always explained yourself, silence may feel wrong. If you were trained to keep peace by abandoning yourself, choosing dignity may feel selfish. But discomfort does not mean the boundary is unhealthy. It may mean you are breaking an old pattern. Walking away from repeated disrespect is difficult because you are not only leaving a person, you may be leaving memories, shared plans, family expectations, emotional dependence, financial security, social identity, and the hope that your patience would eventually be rewarded. This is why people remain long after the truth becomes clear. The cost of leaving feels immediate, while the cost of staying is spread across many small wounds. One insult does not seem enough. One ignored boundary feels survivable. One more disappointment appears manageable. But over time, those small injuries become the atmosphere of your life. Ask yourself what the relationship is teaching your nervous system. Do you feel calm, seen, and safe enough to be honest? Or are you constantly monitoring their mood, choosing words carefully, and preparing for the next emotional reaction? Do you feel free to be yourself, or have you become a smaller version of who you were? Peace cannot grow where you are always trying to prevent another person from becoming angry. Many people confuse fear with respect. They say, "I do not want to upset them," when what they mean is, "I am afraid of what happens when they do not get their way." That is not harmony. It is emotional captivity. A peaceful relationship does not require you to disappear. Your voice, needs, limits, and feelings should not be treated as threats. If the relationship only works when you remain silent, then silence is not preserving the connection. It is hiding the damage. You may try explaining how the disrespect affects you. This is reasonable when the other person is capable of listening. Speak clearly and calmly. Describe the behavior, not their entire character. Say what needs to change and what you will do if the pattern continues. Then observe. Do not measure their response by how emotional the apology sounds. Measure it by whether the behavior changes when there is no immediate pressure. If you must keep explaining the same wound, the problem may not be that they do not understand. The problem may be that they do not care enough to change. People often say, "They know this hurts me," as if knowledge should automatically create transformation. But awareness alone does not change someone who benefits from the current pattern. They may understand perfectly. They simply believe you will stay anyway. This is why consequences matter. A boundary without a consequence is often heard as a request. If you say, "Do not speak to me this way," but remain present every time it happens, the words lose power. The other person learns that your boundary describes what you dislike, not what you will refuse to tolerate. A consequence is not revenge. It is the action you take to protect yourself. You may end the conversation, leave the room, reduce contact, refuse access, or end the relationship. The consequence is not designed to control them. It is designed to control your participation. You cannot force someone to respect you, but you can decide how close they are allowed to stand while disrespecting you. This distinction returns your power. Instead of asking, "How do I make them change?" ask, "What will I do if they refuse?" The first question keeps your peace dependent on them. The second places responsibility back in your hands. Walking away does not always mean permanently ending a relationship in one dramatic moment. Sometimes it means leaving the conversation when insults begin. Sometimes it means refusing to defend yourself against deliberate provocation. Sometimes it means creating distance until consistent change appears. In more serious situations, it may mean ending contact completely. The form of distance depends on the level of harm, but the principle remains the same. Repeated disrespect should not receive unlimited access. Do not stay merely because the person occasionally shows kindness. Even harmful relationships contain good moments. If they were painful every second, leaving would be easier. The kindness creates confusion. It makes you question whether the disrespect is truly serious. But good moments do not cancel repeated harm. A person can be generous and manipulative, affectionate and cruel, supportive and controlling. Human beings are complex. You do not need to prove that someone is completely bad before deciding that their behavior is unhealthy for you. You are allowed to leave a relationship that contains love but lacks respect. Love without respect becomes possession, dependence, or emotional chaos. Respect is what allows love to remain safe. Another reason people remain is fear that walking away means they failed. They invested time, energy, forgiveness, and hope. Leaving makes them feel that everything was wasted. But staying longer does not recover what has already been lost. It only risks losing more. The time you gave was not meaningless if it taught you something. The love you offered was not foolish simply because it was not returned well. Your kindness still reflects your character, but there comes a point when continuing to give becomes self-destruction rather than devotion. You do not honor your past effort by extending your suffering. The mind may also fear loneliness. It says, "At least someone is here." But physical presence does not always protect you from loneliness. You can feel deeply alone beside a person who refuses to understand, respect, or value you. Sometimes leaving a disrespectful connection creates an empty space, but that space is honest. It no longer requires you to pretend that emotional abandonment is companionship. Temporary loneliness can heal. Repeated disrespect teaches you to abandon yourself. Choose the loneliness that leads back to your own peace over the company that slowly separates you from it. There may be people around you who encourage you to stay. They may tell you to be more patient, forgiving, loyal, or understanding. They see only fragments of what you live through. They may focus on the other person's good qualities, social status, or public image. Listen to wise counsel, especially from people who know the full situation and genuinely care about your well-being. But do not allow outsiders to make you doubt what your daily experience is teaching you. People who are not living inside the relationship do not carry its emotional cost. You must become honest about what happens when nobody else is watching. Respect also matters in friendships, families, and workplaces. A family connection does not give someone permanent permission to insult, control, or humiliate you. History does not excuse harm. Shared blood does not erase the need for boundaries. You may not always be able to remove someone completely, especially when responsibilities, work, caregiving, or family structures are involved. But you can change the level of access. You can stop sharing personal information, shorten conversations, refuse certain topics, and end interactions that become abusive. Distance can be emotional, conversational, digital, or physical. The purpose is not punishment, it is protection. The Buddhist path does not teach passive submission to harm. Non-attachment means refusing to cling to relationships that repeatedly destroy clarity and peace. Compassion includes protecting the conditions in which wisdom can grow. If your mind is constantly flooded with fear, humiliation, and conflict, it becomes difficult to remain aware. This is why boundaries are not separate from spiritual growth. They protect the inner environment where calmness, insight, and compassion can survive. However, be careful not to label every disagreement as disrespect. Someone can challenge you without devaluing you. They can tell you an uncomfortable truth without attacking your dignity. They can set their own boundary without rejecting your worth. Ask whether the person is criticizing a behavior or attacking your identity. Are they willing to listen or only trying to dominate? Is the conflict occasional and repairable or constant and destructive? Do they take responsibility or always make you the problem? Wisdom requires discernment. Walking away from every difficult conversation is avoidance. Walking away from repeated contempt is self-respect. The goal is not to become easily offended. It is to become clear. A strong mind does not react to every careless word, but it also does not normalize consistent harm. It can forgive a mistake without confusing forgiveness with permission. It can understand another person's pain without becoming responsible for absorbing it. Before deciding what to do, look at the entire pattern. How often does it happen? What form does it take? Have you communicated clearly? Has there been genuine change? Does the person respect your boundaries when you enforce them? Are you becoming healthier or more broken in their presence? Your answers matter more than their promises. Walking away may produce grief. You may miss them, doubt yourself, and remember the good moments more clearly than the painful ones. The mind often romanticizes what it has lost. It edits the past, removes the humiliation, and replays only the warmth. When this happens, remember the complete pattern. Do not return to a harmful situation because loneliness made you forget why you left. Write down what happened if necessary. Record how you felt, what boundaries were crossed, what promises were broken, and how many times you tried. This is not to keep yourself angry. It is to protect yourself from selective memory. Healing does not require hatred. You do not need to turn them into a monster to justify your departure. You can acknowledge the good they gave and still accept that the relationship became unsafe for your peace. You can say, "There were meaningful moments, but the pattern was harming me." That sentence contains maturity. It allows truth to remain complex without pulling you back into denial. After walking away, resist the urge to watch whether they regret losing you. If your healing depends on their regret, you are still emotionally attached to their response. They may apologize, they may move on quickly, they may tell a different story, they may never admit what they did. Your freedom begins when their reaction is no longer the reason for your decision. Do not leave to teach them a lesson. Leave because you learnt yours. You learned that love without dignity is not enough. You learned that apologies without change are noise. You learned that your peace cannot survive where your boundaries are repeatedly treated as obstacles. You learned that staying longer does not always make you more loyal. Sometimes it simply makes you easier to harm. The final step is rebuilding your relationship with yourself. Repeated disrespect may have taught you to doubt your instincts. You may question whether your feelings are valid, whether your standards are too high, or whether you are difficult to love. Begin trusting your perception again. Notice when your body tightens around someone. Notice when you constantly feel the need to explain, apologize, or prepare. Your body often recognizes a pattern before your mind is willing to accept it. Rebuild self-respect through small acts. Keep promises to yourself. Rest when you are exhausted. Speak honestly. Say no without giving a long defense. Spend time with people who do not require you to earn basic kindness. The more respectfully you treat yourself, the more visible disrespect becomes. You stop calling inconsistency passion. You stop calling manipulation concern. You stop calling control protection. You stop calling emotional neglect independence. You stop turning harmful behavior into beautiful language simply because accepting the truth feels painful. A person who respects themselves does not demand perfection from others. They simply refuse to remain where harm becomes normal. There is power in recognizing the exact moment a mistake becomes a pattern. That is the moment excuses must end. You may offer understanding once, communication twice, and room for change, but when the same harm keeps returning, your task is no longer to explain more clearly. Your task is to respond more honestly. Walk away the moment disrespect becomes a pattern, not because you hate the person, but because you finally understand that peace requires participation from everyone allowed close to you. Do not wait until the relationship destroys all your confidence. Do not wait until resentment turns you into someone you no longer recognize. Do not wait until the pain becomes so familiar that kindness feels suspicious. You are allowed to leave before everything is completely broken. You are allowed to protect what remains. Let your departure be calm. You do not need a dramatic speech. You do not need to expose, punish, or humiliate anyone. State the truth if necessary, hold the boundary, and stop negotiating with behavior that has already spoken clearly. Some people will call your silence weakness because they only understand conflict. Others will call your boundary cruelty because they benefited from your lack of one. Let them speak. Your responsibility is not to remain available to prove that you are kind. Your responsibility is to live in a way that does not betray your own dignity. When disrespect becomes a pattern, walking away is not defeat. It is the moment you stop asking someone else to protect the peace you are always capable of protecting yourself. 8. Learn to lose everything without losing yourself. Many people believe they are strong until life removes something they depended on. A relationship ends, a job disappears, money becomes uncertain, a dream collapses, a friendship fades, or a person they trusted chooses another path. Suddenly, they no longer know who they are. The loss does not only take something from their life, it seems to take their identity, confidence, direction, and reason to continue. This happens because they did not merely possess the thing they lost. They secretly built themselves around it. You may say, "This is my relationship, my career, my reputation, my home, my plan, or my future." There is nothing wrong with caring deeply about these things. The suffering begins when the mind adds another belief. Without this, I am nothing. That belief turns love into dependence, ambition into identity, and comfort into a prison. When the external object changes, your entire inner world collapses with it. Buddhist wisdom teaches that everything conditioned by life is temporary. People change, bodies age, circumstances shift, success rises and falls. What feels permanent today may look completely different tomorrow. This truth is not meant to make you afraid of life. It is meant to prevent you from building your entire worth upon things that were never promised to remain. You can enjoy what life gives without pretending it cannot leave. You can love someone without treating their presence as proof that you are valuable. You can work hard without believing your position is your identity. You can appreciate comfort without becoming helpless when comfort disappears. Detachment does not mean refusing to care. It means caring without placing your entire self inside something temporary. Loss becomes unbearable when the mind refuses to separate what happened from what it means. The event may be, the relationship ended. The meaning becomes, I am unlovable. The event may be, I failed. The meaning becomes, I am a failure. The event may be, they chose someone else. The meaning becomes, I was never enough. The event may be, I lost money. The meaning becomes, my future is destroyed. The event is painful, but the meaning can become a second wound created by your own mind. You must learn to say, I lost something important, but I did not lose my entire worth. The relationship may have ended, but your capacity to love remains. The opportunity may have disappeared, but your ability to learn remains. Your plans may have failed, but your power to begin again remains. What left your life may have changed your circumstances, but it does not have the authority to erase who you are. The mind often confuses possession with identity because possession gives it a feeling of security. You feel safe because someone loves you, because money is available, because your family approves of you, or because your work gives you status. But security that depends completely on external conditions is always unstable. The person may change, the money may disappear, the approval may be withdrawn, the position may be given to someone else. True inner security begins when you know that even if life changes, you will not abandon yourself. This does not mean you will not grieve. Strength is not pretending that loss does not hurt. A person who feels nothing is not necessarily detached. They may simply be disconnected from their emotions. Healthy detachment allows grief to be present without allowing grief to become your permanent identity. You can cry and still be strong. You can miss someone and still refuse to chase them. You can feel afraid and still take the next step. You can admit that something broke your heart without deciding that your life is over. Grief becomes dangerous when you begin worshipping what is gone. You replay the past until it becomes more real than the present. You compare every new possibility with what you lost. You treat memory like a place you can return to, but memory is not a home. It is only an image held by the mind. The past may contain beauty, but you cannot continue living there. The moment is finished, the people have changed, and the version of you who lived it has also changed. Holding tightly to the past does not preserve it. It only prevents you from meeting the life still standing in front of you. Sometimes you are not grieving the person or situation itself. You are grieving the future you imagined. You saw years ahead. You created conversations that never happened, places you never visited, and promises that were never fulfilled. When the connection ends, you lose both the reality and the dream. This is why some endings feel larger than the time they lasted. The mind had already built an entire world around them. To heal, you must separate what truly existed from what you hoped would exist. Appreciate the good that was real, but stop feeding the future that never arrived. You are not required to keep suffering for a dream that reality did not support. Loss also exposes where you place too much dependence. If one person leaves and you feel that life has no meaning, perhaps too much of your identity was placed inside the relationship. If one failure makes you feel worthless, perhaps achievement became your only source of value. If criticism destroys you, perhaps approval became the foundation of your self-image. Instead of asking only, "Why did I lose this?" ask, "What did this loss reveal about where I had placed my identity?" This question turns pain into awareness. Perhaps the loss is showing you that you stopped caring for your own life. You gave so much attention to another person that you neglected your health, friendships, goals, and inner peace. You became a supporting character in someone else's story and forgot that you also had a life to build. Perhaps you depended on success to feel worthy. Every achievement gave temporary relief, but you were never peaceful because another goal was always required. Failure now feels unbearable because you were not only pursuing success, you were using it to escape your fear of being ordinary. Perhaps you remained in a familiar situation because you were afraid to discover who you would become without it. The loss now creates emptiness, but emptiness is not always destruction. Sometimes it is space. The mind sees empty space and immediately wants to fill it. After a relationship ends, people rush toward another connection. After losing status, they chase another title. After failure, they seek immediate proof that they are still capable. They cannot tolerate the silence between the old life and the new one. But the space after loss can teach you something no distraction can teach. It shows you what remains when the noise disappears. Do not rush to replace what left. Sit quietly and discover who you are without it. What matters to you now? What parts of yourself were neglected? What patterns must not be repeated? What did you learn about attachment, trust, and your own needs? The period after loss is not only an ending, it is an examination. You may discover that you accepted less than you deserved because you feared being alone. You may see that you ignored obvious signs because the dream felt more comforting than the truth. You may recognize that you spent years trying to prove yourself to people who were never prepared to appreciate you. These realizations can hurt, but they also free you. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can refuse to let the lesson be wasted. Many people become bitter after loss because bitterness creates the illusion of strength. They say, "I will never trust again. I will never love again. I will never care this deeply again." They believe closing the heart will protect it, but becoming cold is another way of allowing the loss to control you. The person or event is gone, yet it continues shaping how you live, love, and see the world. You may no longer chase what left, but you are still being controlled by the wound it created. Real strength is remaining wise without becoming cruel. It is learning boundaries without losing compassion. It is seeing danger more clearly without assuming everyone will harm you. It is protecting your peace without building a wall so high that nothing meaningful can enter. Do not let one person's betrayal turn you against every future connection. Do not let one failure convince you that effort is useless. Do not let one season of difficulty become your entire philosophy of life. The lesson of pain is not that nothing can be trusted. The lesson is that your peace must not depend on blind trust in what is temporary. There will be moments when loss makes you question whether life is fair. You gave your best, acted sincerely, remained loyal, worked hard, and still did not receive the outcome you hoped for. This can create anger because the mind expects life to reward effort in a predictable way. But effort and outcome are not always equal. You can do everything with honesty and still face loss. Another person has their own choices. Circumstances contain factors beyond your control. Timing may not support what you want. Life is not a machine that guarantees a reward every time you insert good intentions. This truth can feel harsh, but it also releases you from unnecessary guilt. Not every loss means you failed. Not every ending proves that you did something wrong. Sometimes something ends because it could no longer continue in the same form. You must learn to review the past without attacking yourself. Ask what you could have done differently, but do not turn reflection into punishment. Take responsibility for what belongs to you and release what does not. Perhaps you ignored your intuition. Learn from that. Perhaps you tolerated disrespect. Strengthen your boundaries. Perhaps you were dishonest or careless. Apologize, change, and grow, but do not accept responsibility for another person's choices, hidden motives, or refusal to communicate. Self-blame can feel like control because it tells you, if everything was my fault, then perhaps I can prevent all pain in the future. But life cannot be made completely safe. Even wise people face loss. Even loving people are rejected. Even careful plans sometimes fail. Your responsibility is not to create a life where nothing can be lost. Your responsibility is to become someone who can remain whole when change arrives. The mind becomes stronger when it stops asking, "How do I prevent every ending?" and begins asking, "How will I meet endings without losing my dignity?" You meet them by remaining present. Do not destroy today by endlessly replaying yesterday. When your thoughts return to what was lost, acknowledge them without following every story. Say, "This memory is here because something mattered to me." Then gently return to what is happening now. You meet endings by caring for your body. Loss is not only emotional, it affects sleep, appetite, breathing, energy, and concentration. Eat even when your appetite is weak. Move your body. Rest without judging yourself for needing recovery. Spend time in sunlight and quiet places. Healing is not only a thought, it is also the gradual return of safety to the nervous system. You meet endings by staying connected to trustworthy people. Detachment does not mean isolating yourself from everyone. Speak with those who listen without feeding hatred or false hope. Do not repeatedly tell your story to people who turn your pain into gossip. Choose support that helps you see clearly. You meet endings by rebuilding structure. Grief creates disorder. Days lose shape because the person, role, or routine that organized your life is gone. Create small responsibilities. Wake at a consistent time. Complete one meaningful task. Clean the space around you. Walk, read, work, pray, meditate, or sit in silence. Small routines remind your mind that life is continuing. Do not wait to feel fully motivated. After loss, action often comes before emotion. You may not feel hopeful before beginning. Hope may return because you began. One of the most important truths is that healing is not linear. Some days you will feel free. The next day, one memory, place, song, or message may bring the pain back. Do not assume you have failed. The return of pain does not mean you have returned to the beginning. Healing moves in waves. Each wave may revisit the same memory, but you are meeting it with a different level of awareness. Over time, the memory remains, yet its power changes. You stop asking why they left every morning. You stop checking whether they returned. You stop building your day around the possibility of contact. The space once occupied by grief slowly begins filling with your own life. This process cannot be forced. You cannot command yourself to forget. The mind releases gradually when it feels safe enough to stop holding on. Sometimes people remain attached because they believe letting go will erase the importance of what happened. They think, if I move on, perhaps the love was not real. But healing does not disrespect the past. You can value what something meant without remaining broken by its ending. You can remember with gratitude instead of desperation. You can say, this mattered to me and it is no longer mine. Both truths can exist together. Loss may also change how others see you. A failed business, broken relationship, financial struggle, or public mistake may affect your reputation. People who once admired you may become distant. Some may judge you, gossip, or act as if your difficulty reveals your entire character. Do not allow their reaction to become another loss of self. People often celebrate results without understanding the effort behind them. They may respect success more than character, because success is easy to see, but a difficult season reveals qualities that comfort never could. You discover whether you can remain honest when embarrassment is present. You discover whether you can keep going when nobody is impressed. You discover whether your discipline was connected to purpose or applause. There is great power in rebuilding privately. You no longer work to prove that the critics were wrong. You work because you have decided that one chapter will not become the entire book. If your reputation changes, let your future actions speak. You do not need to explain every failure to everyone. Those who want to misunderstand will use your explanation as more material. Those who care will see your consistency over time. The loss of public approval can become a hidden freedom. You stop performing for people who were never truly invested in your well-being. You may also fear starting again because beginning from nothing feels humiliating. You remember where you once stood and compare it with your present position. You say, I should be further ahead. I should not have to rebuild. I have lost too much time. But rebuilding is not returning to zero. You carry experience, awareness, and lessons that your earlier self did not possess. The external position may appear smaller, but the person beginning again may be wiser. Do not insult your new beginning because it looks modest. Every stable life is built through small, repeated choices. The first step may not impress anyone, but it changes your direction. Learn to respect the version of yourself willing to begin again. The person who starts after failure is stronger than the person who has never been tested. The person who loves again after heartbreak is not foolish. They are courageous when they carry wisdom with them. The person who builds after losing everything understands that possessions can disappear, but capability can be developed again. You are not your highest moment, and you are not your lowest moment. You are the awareness capable of moving through both. Buddhist teachings often compare life to a river. The water you touch now is not the water you touched a moment ago. Everything is moving. The mistake is not loving the river. The mistake is trying to hold the water in your hands and becoming angry when it escapes. Life can be experienced deeply without being possessed permanently. This means enjoying people while they are present, speaking truth while there is time, and showing gratitude without assuming the moment will last forever. Awareness of impermanence does not reduce love. It makes love more honest. You stop postponing appreciation. You stop acting as though tomorrow is guaranteed. You become kinder because you understand that every meeting is temporary. At the same time, you stop trying to control what must eventually change. You do not squeeze life so tightly that love becomes fear. Fear of loss can destroy the very thing you want to keep. You become jealous, controlling, suspicious, or desperate. You monitor every shift and demand constant reassurance. The relationship becomes heavy because the other person is no longer being loved. They are being used to protect you from insecurity. The answer is not caring less. It is building a self that can love without needing control. Say to yourself, I value your presence, but I will not make you responsible for my entire identity. This is mature love. It gives closeness without imprisonment. The same principle applies to money and success. Use them, appreciate them, and build them wisely, but do not confuse them with your human worth. Money can provide comfort, safety, and opportunity, but it cannot create a stable identity. Success can open doors, but it cannot guarantee peace. If losing status makes you feel invisible, perhaps you were using status to avoid knowing yourself. If losing wealth makes you feel worthless, perhaps possessions had become evidence that you mattered. Return to qualities that cannot be taken in the same way. Your capacity to learn, your integrity, your patience, your discipline, your awareness, and your ability to serve others. These qualities may be tested, but they are not removed simply because circumstances change. Even physical ability and health can change, so the deepest identity must go beyond performance. You are not only what your body can accomplish, you are also the consciousness with which you meet your present condition. This becomes especially important with aging. People may grieve their younger body, speed, beauty, position, or independence. They feel that life is taking pieces of them away, but aging does not have to mean losing yourself. It can mean discovering which parts were never truly you. The body changes, but awareness can deepen. External power may decrease, but wisdom can grow. Certain doors close, but the ability to live truthfully remains. To lose everything without losing yourself, you must know what the self is not. It is not one relationship, one age, one achievement, one appearance, one role, or one chapter. These are experiences moving through your life. When one role ends, you remain capable of meeting another. When one identity falls away, a more honest one can emerge. Loss often feels like death because an old version of you is ending. The person who believed they would spend life with someone is no longer the same. The person who expected a certain career or future must change. The old identity cannot continue unchanged. Allow that version to end. Do not force yourself to remain loyal to a life that no longer exists. Transformation can feel empty before it feels meaningful. You are no longer who you were, but you do not yet know who you are becoming. This space is uncomfortable, yet deeply important. Do not fill it with panic. Sit inside the unknown long enough for a new direction to appear. You do not need an immediate answer to the question, who am I now? Begin with, who do I choose to be today? Choose honesty, choose patience, choose discipline, choose dignity. Identity is rebuilt through action, not through one perfect realization. Each day you keep one promise to yourself. A new foundation forms. Perhaps you promise not to contact someone who repeatedly rejected you. Perhaps you promise to complete your work even while grieving. Perhaps you promise to stop checking what others are doing. Perhaps you promise to care for your body instead of punishing it. These small acts tell your mind, I have not abandoned you. That is how self-trust returns. Losing yourself does not happen only when something leaves. It happens when you betray your own needs to prevent the loss. You stay silent when you should speak. You accept disrespect because you fear loneliness. You keep giving because you fear being forgotten. You pretend not to care because you fear rejection. By the time the relationship or situation ends, you may realize that you were already losing yourself while trying to keep it. This is why the real lesson is not merely surviving loss. It is refusing to disappear before the ending arrives. Do not sacrifice your identity to make something temporary stay longer. What must remain through self-betrayal is already costing too much. A healthy connection allows you to exist fully. A meaningful goal develops your character rather than consuming it. A peaceful life includes attachment to purpose, but not dependence on one outcome. When you begin rebuilding, do not make revenge your motivation. You may want to become successful, so the person who left regrets it. You may want to look happier, so those who doubted you feel jealous. This energy can produce action, but it keeps your life tied to the people you are trying to escape. Build because your life deserves to be lived, not because you need an audience to witness your recovery. The day their regret becomes irrelevant is the day you truly regain yourself. You no longer imagine the conversation where they apologize. You no longer measure your success by whether they notice. Your new life is not a message directed at the past. It belongs to you. Forgive yourself for the time you spent holding on. You acted with the awareness you had then. Perhaps you were afraid, lonely, hopeful, or unprepared. Condemning your past self will not heal you. Offer that version compassion. Say, you were trying to survive, now I know another way. Then live differently. There may come a day when what you lost returns. A person may contact you, an opportunity may reappear, or the door may open again. Do not assume the return means you must accept it. Ask whether the pattern has changed, whether you have changed, and whether reopening the door supports your peace. Missing something is not always a reason to receive it again. Sometimes life brings the past back to test whether you still abandon yourself for familiarity. Look at actions, not emotion. Nostalgia can make an unhealthy situation appear sacred. Time may soften the pain while leaving the pattern unchanged. Do not confuse the absence of conflict with proof that the connection is now safe. You are allowed to choose the person you became after the loss over the thing that once defined you. The deepest freedom is realizing that nothing external can permanently complete or destroy you. Life will still affect you. Love will still matter. Loss will still hurt. But your center no longer disappears every time the world changes. You become like a tree in a storm. Branches may break, leaves may fall, the season may become harsh, but the roots remain deep enough for life to continue. Your roots are awareness, integrity, self-respect, discipline, compassion, and acceptance. These must be strengthened before the storm, not searched for only after it arrives. Build an inner life now. Spend time in silence. Learn to observe your thoughts. Create purpose beyond one person. Develop skills. Care for your body. Nurture relationships that do not require self-betrayal. Practice gratitude for what is present without demanding permanence. Then when change arrives, you will grieve, but you will not become empty. Remember that losing everything is rarely as complete as the mind claims. During pain, it says, everything is gone. Look carefully. Your breath remains. Time remains. The possibility of another decision remains. The ability to learn, speak, create, and begin remains. Something important may be gone, but life has not removed every path. Do not let dramatic language convince you that no future exists. Say instead, the future I expected is gone. Another future has not yet revealed itself. This statement is painful, but it is also true and open. It does not force optimism, yet it leaves room for possibility. You cannot always choose what life removes, but you can choose what the removal produces inside you. It may produce bitterness, dependence, and fear, or it may produce clarity, boundaries, humility, and strength. Pain alone does not transform a person. Awareness transforms pain into wisdom. Without awareness, the same patterns repeat. You choose another person with the same behavior, chase another form of validation, or build another identity on unstable ground. With awareness, the loss becomes a turning point. You recognize what you will never again trade for temporary comfort. You stop begging people to stay. You stop using success to prove worth. You stop making one outcome responsible for your happiness. You begin standing inside your own life. Learn to lose everything without losing yourself, because life will continue changing whether you are ready or not. What you love may not remain in the same form. What you build may require rebuilding. People may leave, plans may collapse, and chapters may close without your permission. But the deepest part of you does not have to close with them. Let loss remove illusions, not your dignity. Let it remove dependence, not your capacity to love. Let it remove an old direction, not your willingness to continue. Let it take what can no longer remain without convincing you that nothing remains. You are not the person who left. You are not the opportunity that ended. You are not the mistake, the rejection, the empty account, the broken plan, or the season of silence. You are the one still standing after all of it. And when you finally understand this, loss changes meaning. It no longer says your life is over. It says something has ended, and now you must discover what cannot be taken from you. That discovery is your freedom. You may lose comfort, approval, status, certainty, possessions, and people you once believed would stay forever. You may lose the life you carefully imagined, but do not lose your awareness. Do not lose your principles. Do not lose your ability to begin again. Do not lose the quiet voice within you that says, "This pain is real, but it is not the end of me." Everything outside you may change. Stand so deeply within yourself that when it does, you bend, grieve, learn, and continue. But you do not disappear. 9. Control the urge to react before it controls you. Many people believe their greatest problem is what others do to them. But often the deeper problem is how quickly they react. One careless message ruins the entire day. One insulting comment controls the next conversation. One moment of rejection creates hours of overthinking. The event may last only a few seconds, yet the reaction continues long after the moment has passed. This is how other people gain power over your mind, without even realizing it. The urge to react is fast, because emotion moves before wisdom has time to speak. Anger says, "Answer now." Fear says, "Fix this immediately." Pride says, "Do not let them think they won." Attachment says, "Send another message before they leave." In that moment, the mind is not searching for the best response. It is searching for relief. Reaction promises immediate relief, but it often creates long-term regret. You send the message, raise your voice, reveal the secret, make the accusation, or say the one sentence you cannot take back. For a few seconds, you feel powerful because the emotion has been released. Then the consequences begin. Trust is damaged, dignity is lost, and the problem becomes larger than it was before. Buddhist wisdom teaches that freedom begins in the space between what happens and what you choose to do next. The event may not be under your control, but your response can be. That small space is where peace, dignity, and self-mastery are built. The difficulty is that most people have never trained themselves to remain inside that space. They react automatically because reaction has become a habit. They were criticized, so they learned to defend. They were ignored, so they learned to chase. They were disrespected, so they learned to attack. Their past created emotional reflexes that continue controlling the present. You may believe you are responding to the current situation, but sometimes you are reacting to an older wound. A person replies late, and the mind remembers every time you felt abandoned. Someone questions your decision, and suddenly you are fighting every person who ever made you feel incapable. A small disagreement awakens years of feeling unheard. This is why the intensity of your reaction may be much larger than the moment itself. The present event touches something unfinished inside you. Before reacting, ask, what am I truly responding to? Is it this one comment, or the fear that nobody respects you? Is it this delayed message, or the fear of being forgotten? Is it this criticism, or the shame you have carried for years? Awareness separates the current situation from the history attached to it. Without awareness, the past controls your behavior, while the present receives the consequences. The first step in controlling reaction is recognizing what happens inside the body. Emotion rarely begins only as thought. Anger tightens the jaw, raises the heartbeat, and fills the chest with heat. Fear makes the breathing shallow and the body restless. Shame creates heaviness, silence, or the desire to disappear. When these signs appear, your body is warning you that wisdom is about to be replaced by impulse. Do not ignore these signs. The moment you feel the physical rise of emotion, stop making decisions. Do not send the message. Do not continue the argument. Do not announce a permanent decision while your mind is in a temporary storm. Pause. Take a slower breath than your emotion wants you to take. Relax your hands. Unclench the jaw. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Look at what is physically present instead of following every thought. This does not solve the whole problem, but it interrupts the automatic chain between feeling and action. The mind may tell you that pausing makes you weak. It says, if you do not respond now, they will disrespect you. But immediate reaction is not strength. Anyone can be controlled by anger. Anyone can speak when emotion is burning. Real strength is remaining conscious while the body is demanding release. Silence is especially powerful when someone is trying to provoke you. Some people do not want understanding. They want a reaction. They know which words disturb you, which memories hurt you, and which accusations make you defensive. The moment you react, they feel successful because they have proven that your peace is still available for them to control. When you remain calm, you remove their reward. You do not become emotionless. You simply stop allowing their behavior to choose yours. This does not mean tolerating abuse or pretending harmful words do not matter. It means responding from clarity rather than impulse. You can set a boundary without shouting. You can leave without insulting. You can say, I will not continue this conversation while I am being spoken to this way, and then step away. A calm boundary is often more powerful than an emotional attack because it cannot be easily turned against you. When you react with rage, the original disrespect may be forgotten and your reaction becomes the new focus. The person who provoked you may suddenly present themselves as the victim. By losing control, you give them material to avoid responsibility. Protect your message by protecting your state of mind. Another reason people react quickly is the fear of being misunderstood. You receive a message that feels cold, and immediately you assume rejection. Someone does not invite you, and you conclude that they do not value you. A friend looks distracted, and the mind decides they are angry. Then you respond to the interpretation instead of the facts. The problem is that the mind fills missing information with fear. It rarely says, perhaps there is another explanation. It chooses the story most connected to your insecurity. You react to something that may not even be true. Before responding, separate the fact from the story. The fact may be, they replied with one sentence. The story becomes, they are losing interest. The fact may be, they disagreed with me. The story becomes, they do not respect anything I say. The fact may be, they need space. The story becomes, they are abandoning me. Once the story feels real, the reaction follows. Ask for clarity when necessary, but do not accuse people based on assumptions created during emotional moments. A simple question can prevent a long conflict. I may be reading this incorrectly, What did you mean? This keeps the conversation open without surrendering your dignity. The urge to react also appears strongly through digital communication. Messages remove tone, facial expression, and context. A short reply can appear rude. A delayed response can feel deliberate. Social media allows people to comment quickly without understanding the full situation. The screen creates distance from consequences. You type words you might never say while looking into someone's eyes. You press send before emotion has settled. Then the message remains long after your state of mind has changed. Create a rule for yourself. Never send an important message at the peak of anger. Write it if you need to release the thoughts, but do not send it immediately. Read it again after your body becomes calm. Ask whether the message communicates truth or only transfers pain. Often, half of what you wrote will no longer feel necessary. A calm response may be shorter, clearer, and more effective. It may say what needs to be said without trying to wound the other person. This is not weakness, it is discipline. You must understand that emotions are temporary visitors. Anger tells you it will last forever, but it changes. Fear feels permanent, but it moves. Shame may feel overwhelming, but it rises and falls. If you obey every emotion as though it were final truth, your life will be directed by temporary states. Observe emotion like weather. A storm can be real without becoming the entire sky. You do not need to deny the storm. You simply remember that it will pass. When anger appears, say, "Anger is present." Do not say, "I am anger." The first creates distance. The second turns emotion into identity. If anger is something moving through you, you can observe it. If anger becomes who you are, it controls the entire self. This small shift in language changes your relationship with emotion. You stop treating the feeling as a command and begin treating it as information. Anger may be telling you that a boundary was crossed. Fear may be warning you that something feels unsafe. Sadness may be revealing what mattered. Jealousy may expose insecurity or unmet desire. Every emotion has something to teach, but not every emotion should be allowed to lead. Listen to the message without obeying the impulse. If anger says something is wrong, investigate when calm. Do not immediately allow anger to choose the method of response. A valid feeling can still produce a harmful action. This distinction is essential. People often defend bad behavior by saying, "But I was hurt." The hurt may be real. The reaction is still your responsibility. Pain explains behavior, but it does not excuse every consequence. You can be deeply wounded and still refuse to become cruel. Self-mastery means accepting responsibility for what you do with what you feel. You may not choose the first emotional reaction, but you can choose whether you feed it, speak from it, or act through it. The mind feeds emotion through repetition. Someone insults you once, but you replay the moment 20 times. Each replay strengthens the feeling. You imagine what you should have said, how you will confront them, and what others may think. The body reacts as if the event is happening again. This is how a small moment becomes an entire day of suffering. Do not keep reopening the wound to prove that it hurt. You can acknowledge what happened without turning memory into punishment. When the mind returns to the scene, say, "I have already seen this." Repeating it will not change it. Then bring attention toward what action is actually needed. Perhaps no action is needed. Not every insult requires an answer. Not every false opinion requires correction. Not every challenge deserves your energy. One of the highest forms of wisdom is knowing which battles become smaller when ignored. The ego dislikes this because it wants victory. It wants the final word. It wants to prove intelligence, strength, and correctness. But winning an argument can still cost your peace. Proving someone wrong can still pull you into a place beneath your character. Ask yourself, what will this reaction create? Will it create understanding or only more conflict? Will it protect a boundary or only satisfy pride? Will you feel proud of this response tomorrow? The future version of you often knows what the emotional version refuses to see. Reaction is also connected to urgency. The mind says, do something now or you will lose control. But many situations improve when given time. More information appears, emotions settle. The other person becomes willing to speak calmly. What felt like an emergency begins looking manageable. Urgency is not always importance. Sometimes urgency is anxiety demanding immediate relief. Learn to delay action without avoiding responsibility. Say, I need time to think before I respond. This sentence protects both truth and dignity. It gives your calm mind an opportunity to enter the conversation. People who respect you will understand. Those who demand an instant reaction may be more interested in controlling the moment than resolving it. The ability to pause is especially important in relationships. During conflict, people often stop listening and begin preparing their defense. Each sentence becomes a weapon. Old mistakes are brought into the present. The purpose shifts from solving the issue to winning. Once both people become emotionally flooded, useful communication becomes difficult. Continuing may create more damage than clarity. A wise response is to recognize when the conversation has lost its direction. Say, I care about resolving this, but I do not want us to keep hurting each other. Let us return when we are calmer. Then actually return. Pausing should not become silent punishment or avoidance. The goal is not to escape the issue, it is to meet the issue with a better mind. Some people fear pausing because they grew up around conflict that was never resolved. Silence meant abandonment, punishment, or emotional distance. Therefore, they feel that every problem must be solved immediately. But forcing resolution while both people are reactive can repeat the same unhealthy pattern. Healthy space includes communication and a clear intention to return. It says, I am not leaving the relationship. I am leaving this harmful form of conversation. This protects connection rather than destroying it. You must also learn to control the urge to react when someone withdraws. Silence can trigger panic, especially when you depend on another person's attention. You send another message, then another. You ask what is wrong, apologize without knowing what you did, and begin abandoning your dignity to restore contact. But chasing someone's silence rarely produces genuine clarity. It often increases your anxiety and gives the other person complete control over the emotional rhythm. Instead, communicate once with honesty. Say what is necessary, then step back. Allow their response or continued silence to provide information. Do not turn uncertainty into self-humiliation. A person's silence may be temporary, but your repeated reaction can create a permanent loss of self-respect. The urge to react also appears when you feel rejected. Rejection can make you desperate to prove your value. You may argue, explain, compete, or try to become more desirable, but the need to convince someone to choose you is already evidence that the connection is not peaceful. Let rejection reveal direction. You do not need to attack the person, insult their choice, or prove they made a mistake. Your dignity is strongest when you accept what is clear and redirect your energy. Rejection hurts, but reaction can make it humiliating. The same principle applies to criticism. Some criticism is useful, some is unfair, and some is deliberately cruel. If you react defensively to all criticism, you lose the chance to learn. If you believe all criticism, you lose your identity. Pause and examine the source. Is this person informed? Do they care about your growth? Are they pointing to a specific behavior or attacking your entire character? Is there truth hidden inside an uncomfortable delivery? Take what is useful and release what is not. A calm person can hear criticism without collapsing because their identity is not dependent on being perfect. They can say, I need to think about that, instead of immediately defending every choice. This does not mean accepting disrespect. It means having enough inner stability to examine yourself honestly. Sometimes the strongest reaction is a correction. If you were wrong, admit it quickly. Pride may urge you to defend yourself because apology feels like defeat. But refusing to acknowledge a mistake only makes the error larger. An honest apology is not weakness. It shows that your character matters more than your image. Say, "I reacted badly. My feeling was real, but the way I expressed it was harmful." This takes responsibility without denying the original issue. It separates the emotion from the behavior. A sincere apology also includes changed action. If you repeatedly apologize for the same explosive reaction without practicing restraint, the apology loses meaning. Change must become visible in the pause you create next time. You cannot master reaction only through understanding. You must practice under pressure. Calmness during peaceful moments proves little. The true test arrives when you are insulted, ignored, delayed, challenged, or disappointed. Begin with smaller situations. When traffic moves slowly, observe the urge to become angry. When someone interrupts, notice the desire to respond sharply. When plans change, watch the mind resist. These small moments are training. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you strengthen a new pattern. The mind learns that discomfort can be experienced without immediate action. Over time, the space between trigger and response becomes wider. This is how emotional discipline is built, not through one dramatic decision, but through hundreds of small moments where you choose awareness over impulse. Your environment also affects your ability to regulate emotion. Lack of sleep, constant stress, hunger, overstimulation, and unresolved pressure make reaction more likely. A tired mind has less patience. An exhausted body interprets small problems as major threats. Self-control is not only a spiritual idea. It also requires care for the body. Rest, nourishment, movement, quiet, and healthy routines create a stronger foundation for wise responses. Do not proudly ignore your limits and then blame others when you explode. Learn to recognize when you are emotionally overloaded. Sometimes the correct response is not another conversation, it is rest. You may also need distance from environments that keep you constantly reactive. Some relationships survive on conflict. Some workplaces reward aggression. Some online spaces are designed to keep you angry. If your mind is repeatedly exposed to provocation, peace becomes harder to protect. Choose what you consume. News, arguments, gossip, and endless comparison can fill the nervous system with tension. You may believe you are simply observing, but the body absorbs the emotional atmosphere. Protect your attention as carefully as you protect your time. The more unnecessary conflict you consume, the more reactive your mind becomes. It begins searching for enemies, insults, and threats. Peace feels unfamiliar because agitation has become normal. Create moments where the mind is not being asked to respond. Sit in silence. Walk without a screen. Breathe without needing entertainment. Allow the nervous system to remember what calmness feels like. A peaceful mind is easier to access during conflict if you visit it regularly during ordinary moments. Meditation can help because it trains you to observe thoughts without following them. You sit and notice an urge, memory, or emotion. Instead of acting, you return to the breath. This simple practice teaches the mind that not every internal event requires obedience. You may notice irritation and remain seated. You may remember a painful conversation and still return to awareness. Each return builds control. The goal is not to empty the mind completely. The goal is to stop being carried away by everything that enters it. When a strong reaction begins, use 3 questions. First, what am I feeling? Name it honestly. Second, what story am I telling about this? Separate assumption from fact. Third, what response protects both truth and dignity? These questions slow the emotional process and return choice. If the answer is unclear, wait. Confusion is often a sign that the mind is not ready to act. There will be times when a quick response is necessary. Immediate danger, serious boundary violations, or urgent responsibilities may require action. Self-mastery does not mean becoming passive. It means reacting quickly only when clarity, not ego, requires it. A calm person can act firmly. They can leave danger, speak loudly when protection is needed, and make decisive choices. Calmness is not slowness. It is the absence of unnecessary chaos. The purpose of controlling reaction is not to become silent in every situation. It is to make sure your voice belongs to you. When anger speaks through you, the words do not fully belong to your values. When fear makes your decisions, your direction does not fully belong to you. When pride controls your response, you become a servant to the opinion you are trying to defeat. Mastery means reclaiming authorship of your behavior. Ask yourself what kind of person you want to be during difficult moments. Anyone can appear kind when nothing is wrong. Character is revealed when you have the opportunity to become cruel and choose not to. This does not mean becoming soft toward repeated disrespect. It means refusing to imitate the behavior you oppose. If someone lies, you do not need to lie back. If they insult you, you do not need to destroy their dignity. If they betray you, you do not need to betray your own principles. You may remove access, end the relationship, and speak truth clearly without becoming what hurt you. Your response is part of your identity. Do not hand it to the person who provoked you. Sometimes you will fail. You will react too quickly, say something regrettable, or allow emotion to control the moment. Do not use failure as evidence that change is impossible. Examine the chain. What triggered you? What did the body feel? What thought appeared? At what point could you have paused? What will you do differently next time? Every mistake can become a map. Perhaps you need to stop continuing conversations when voices rise. Perhaps you need a rule about waiting before sending messages. Perhaps certain topics require preparation. Perhaps one relationship repeatedly pulls you into a version of yourself you are trying to leave behind. Awareness after the reaction helps prevent the next one. But do not only analyze, repair what can be repaired. Apologize when necessary. Clarify what you meant. Accept the consequence if trust was damaged. Self-mastery includes taking responsibility for the impact of your behavior, then practice again. Over time, people may notice that you have changed. The same words no longer disturb you as deeply. You stop defending yourself to everyone. You do not answer every provocation. Your messages become shorter and clearer. Your boundaries become calmer. Some people will respect this change. Others may become uncomfortable because they can no longer control your emotions. They may push harder, hoping to produce the old reaction. Do not confuse increased provocation with failure. Sometimes it is evidence that your new boundary is working. Remain consistent. When someone realizes that anger no longer moves you, manipulation weakens. When silence no longer makes you chase, emotional games lose power. When criticism no longer destroys your identity, people must speak to you differently. Your peace teaches others how they are allowed to approach you. There is also a deeper reward. When you stop reacting to every external movement, you begin hearing your own mind more clearly. You discover what you truly believe, what you actually want, and which relationships deserve your energy. Reaction creates noise. Response creates direction. You become less exhausted because you are no longer fighting every opinion, correcting every misunderstanding, or chasing every emotional shift. Your energy returns to meaningful work, healthy relationships, and inner growth. You realize that many situations did not require your reaction at all. They required observation. People reveal themselves when you do not interrupt the pattern. A person who repeatedly disrespects you will continue showing it. Someone who genuinely cares will return with clarity. A false accusation may weaken when it receives no emotional fuel. Time often exposes what reaction hides. Patience becomes a form of intelligence. The strongest mind is not the one that feels nothing. It is the one that feels deeply and still chooses wisely. It allows anger to rise without becoming violent. It allows sadness to exist without begging. It experiences fear without surrendering direction. This is what it means to control the urge before it controls you. You do not destroy emotion. You stop giving emotion complete authority. When the next trigger arrives, remember that the first impulse is not always your final truth. The first thought may come from fear. The first desire may come from pride. The first sentence may come from pain. Wait long enough for wisdom to arrive. Let the breath slow. Let the body settle. Let the facts separate from the story. Then choose a response that your future self will respect. Perhaps you will speak. Perhaps you will leave. Perhaps you will apologize. Perhaps you will remain silent. The form will change, but the principle remains. Your action must come from awareness, not emotional captivity. The world will continue giving you reasons to react. People will misunderstand you, disappoint you, challenge you, and sometimes intentionally disturb you. You cannot control all of this, but you can become so disciplined that the outside world no longer enters your mind without permission. That is real power, not controlling everyone around you, but controlling what they are able to awaken within you. The moment you master the pause, you stop being predictable to those who use your emotions against you. You stop becoming a weapon in the hands of your anger. You stop allowing temporary feelings to create permanent consequences. You remain human. You still feel the heat, the fear, the pain, and the disappointment. But something has changed. The feeling enters, and awareness stands beside it. The urge speaks, and wisdom answers. The moment challenges you, and you choose yourself. Control the urge to react before it controls you, because every uncontrolled reaction gives away a piece of your peace. Every conscious response brings that peace back. And when your response finally becomes stronger than your impulse, no insult, silence, rejection, or provocation will be able to choose who you become. 10. Build discipline stronger than desire and temptation. Most people do not fail because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity. They fail because their desires are stronger than their discipline. They know what must be done, yet they repeatedly choose what feels easier. They promise themselves they will begin tomorrow, wake earlier next week, control their habits next month, or take their goals seriously when motivation finally arrives. But tomorrow becomes another today, and the life they want remains trapped behind the actions they keep avoiding. Desire always speaks about immediate pleasure. It says, rest a little longer, skip the difficult task, eat what gives comfort, spend what you should save. Check the phone again, avoid the conversation, choose what feels good now, and worry about the consequences later. Discipline speaks more quietly. It says, do what protects your future, even when the present version of you does not feel like doing it. This is why temptation often wins. It is loud, immediate, and emotionally rewarding. Discipline offers no instant celebration. It asks you to work while nobody is watching, continue while results are invisible, and refuse pleasures that everyone else appears to be enjoying. Yet temptation gives you comfort for a moment and often leaves you with regret, while discipline gives you discomfort for a moment and gradually builds a life you respect. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the uncontrolled mind behaves like a thirsty person drinking salt water. The more it receives, the more it wants. You believe one more distraction will satisfy you, one more purchase will make you happy, one more compliment will make you feel worthy, or one more hour of comfort will prepare you to begin. But desire does not usually become quiet after being obeyed. It learns that you will obey again. Every time you surrender to an unnecessary temptation, you strengthen its authority. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen discipline. Your daily choices are training one of these forces. You are either teaching desire that it controls your behavior, or teaching your mind that discomfort can be endured without surrender. Many people misunderstand discipline. They imagine it as punishment, harshness, exhaustion, and a life without joy. They believe disciplined people must constantly force themselves through misery. But true discipline is not hatred toward yourself. It is respect for the person you are becoming. When you wake and complete important work, you are not punishing yourself. You are protecting your future from your current mood. When you refuse a harmful habit, you are not denying yourself happiness. You are refusing to trade long-term peace for temporary relief. When you maintain a boundary, you are not being cold. You are preventing weakness from inviting the same pain again. Discipline is self-respect expressed through action. A person who respects themselves does not repeatedly make promises they have no intention of keeping. They do not tell themselves, "I will begin tomorrow," simply to escape the discomfort of beginning today. They understand that broken promises slowly destroy self-trust. You may wonder why you no longer believe in yourself. Perhaps it is because you have heard your own promises too many times without seeing action. You say you will stop returning to someone who hurts you, but you return. You say you will complete the work, but you delay. You say you will control your anger, but you react the same way. Each broken promise tells the mind, "My words cannot be trusted." Eventually, you stop feeling powerful because you know that your intentions do not control your behavior. Self-trust is not restored through positive words alone. You can repeat that you are strong, capable, and focused, but the mind watches what you do. It believes evidence more than affirmation. If you want to trust yourself again, begin keeping small promises. Do not promise an entirely new life by tomorrow. Promise one honest action and complete it. Wake when you said you would wake. Work for the period you decided. Keep the message unsent. Avoid the habit for one day. Finish one important task before reaching for distraction. Each completed promise becomes evidence that your choices are beginning to lead your emotions. Discipline grows through consistency, not dramatic intensity. Many people begin with excitement. They try to change everything at once. They create impossible routines, remove every comfort, and demand perfection from themselves. For a few days they feel powerful. Then the intensity becomes exhausting, the routine collapses, and they return to old habits with even less confidence. The mind then says, "I knew I could not change." But the failure did not prove that change was impossible. It proved that temporary excitement cannot replace a sustainable practice. A flame that burns too aggressively may disappear quickly. A smaller flame protected consistently can continue through the night. Build your discipline like that smaller flame. Choose actions you can repeat even when motivation is low. A routine should not depend on your best mood. It should survive ordinary, tired, and difficult days. If you can work for 3 hours when inspired, but do nothing when uninspired, your results will remain unstable. It is better to complete one focused hour consistently than depend on rare bursts of enthusiasm. Motivation asks, "Do I feel ready?" Discipline asks, "What did I decide?" This distinction separates people who dream from people who build. Your emotions will change every day. Some mornings you will feel clear, energetic, and hopeful. Other days you will feel heavy, distracted, doubtful, or bored. If your actions always follow your emotions, your life will move without direction. A disciplined mind allows emotion to exist without giving it the final decision. It can say, "I feel tired, but I will begin. I feel afraid, but I will take one step. I feel tempted, but I will not destroy what I have built. I feel unmotivated, but this task still matters." You do not need to feel strong before acting strongly. Often, the feeling of strength appears after you act. The first minutes of a difficult task are usually the most uncomfortable because the mind is leaving ease and entering effort. It creates excuses to escape. It says you should prepare more, check something quickly, clean the room first, or wait until your mind becomes clearer. These actions may look productive, but they can be disguised avoidance. Learn to recognize the moment your mind begins negotiating. It says, "I will start after one more video." Then one becomes 5. It says, "I deserve a break before beginning." But the break has no clear ending. It says, "Today is already ruined, so I will begin tomorrow." This turns one mistake into an entire lost day. Do not argue with every excuse. Begin before the negotiation grows stronger. The longer you stand at the edge of discomfort, the larger it appears. Action often makes the task smaller. Open the page, put on the shoes, start the conversation. Complete the first step. Movement breaks the spell of overthinking. You do not need to finish everything at once. You only need to defeat the first excuse. Desire also creates temptation by showing you only the pleasure and hiding the cost. When you want to return to a harmful relationship, the mind remembers the affection but hides the disrespect. When you want to abandon your routine, it shows you the comfort of resting but hides the regret you will feel later. When you want to spend impulsively, it shows you the excitement of buying but hides the anxiety of future consequences. Temptation is selective. It displays the reward and removes the price. Discipline restores the complete picture. Before giving in, ask, what happens after this feeling passes? This question forces the mind to look beyond the immediate moment. The pleasure may last minutes, but the result may remain for days, months, or years. You may feel tempted to send an angry message. Imagine the moment after it is read. You may want to quit because progress feels slow. Imagine the months you will lose by returning to the beginning. You may want to betray a boundary because loneliness feels painful. Imagine re-entering the same cycle that forced you to create the boundary. Seeing the full consequence weakens the illusion of temptation. Another useful question is, what will tomorrow's version of me wish I had chosen? The present self wants comfort. The future self lives with the result. Discipline becomes stronger when you stop treating the future version of you like a stranger. Every action is a gift or a burden sent forward in time. The work you complete today becomes tomorrow's progress. The money you save becomes future security. The boundary you protect becomes emotional peace. The sleep you choose becomes clearer thinking. The difficult truth you face becomes freedom. In the same way, every delay creates a burden. The task remains, the problem grows. The habit becomes stronger. The conversation becomes more difficult. Avoidance does not remove discomfort. It usually sends a larger version of it into the future. Do not keep giving your future self problems because your present self refuses temporary discomfort. Discipline is the ability to care about consequences that have not yet arrived. To build it, you must understand your triggers. Temptation rarely appears randomly. Certain emotions, times, places, and people awaken specific habits. You may waste time when you feel anxious. You may eat for comfort when you feel lonely. You may contact the wrong person when night becomes quiet. You may spend impulsively when you feel inadequate. You may become angry when you feel ignored. The visible habit is often an attempt to escape an invisible feeling. If you focus only on stopping the behavior without understanding the emotion beneath it, the mind may replace one temptation with another. You stop one distraction and find a different one. You leave one unhealthy person and immediately attach yourself to another. You control one habit but begin using something else for relief. Ask, what feeling am I trying not to experience? Perhaps you are not addicted to the phone itself. You are afraid of silence. Perhaps you do not truly need the person you keep contacting. You are trying to escape loneliness. Perhaps you are not lazy. You fear failing after giving your full effort. Perhaps you do not need constant pleasure. You are avoiding a life that feels empty. Discipline becomes deeper when it does not merely remove temptation, but helps you face what temptation was hiding. Sit with the emotion before escaping. Let boredom exist without instantly reaching for stimulation. Let loneliness rise without contacting someone who repeatedly harms you. Let insecurity be present without searching for praise. Let fear speak without allowing it to cancel your action. Emotions become less frightening when you discover they can be felt without being obeyed. You may feel an urge so strongly that it seems impossible to resist. But an urge is not permanent. It rises, reaches a peak, and eventually weakens. Most people never discover this because they obey before the peak passes. The next time temptation appears, do not immediately say yes or no. Observe it. Notice where it appears in the body. Is there restlessness in the hands, pressure in the chest, or tension in the face? Notice the thoughts it produces. Watch how it promises relief. Tell yourself, this urge is present, but I do not have to act on it. Wait 10 minutes. Walk, breathe, drink water, or change the environment. Many urges weaken when they are not immediately fed. You do not have to defeat temptation forever. You only need to avoid obeying it in this moment, then do the same in the next moment. This is how great discipline is built. One refusal at a time. Your environment plays a major role in whether discipline succeeds. People often expect willpower to defeat constant temptation while keeping every trigger close. They fill the room with distractions, leave harmful applications available, remain connected to people who weaken their boundaries, and then blame themselves for struggling. Wisdom does not deliberately make discipline harder. If something repeatedly controls you, create distance from it. Remove the application, block access, leave the environment, prepare healthy alternatives, place the phone away while working. Do not visit the place that awakens the habit. Stop following people who trigger comparison, anger, or desire. You are not weak for changing your surroundings. You are intelligent enough to recognize that the mind is influenced by what it repeatedly sees. A person trying to protect peace should not spend hours consuming conflict. A person trying to heal from attachment should not keep checking the life of the person they are releasing. A person trying to focus should not allow every notification to interrupt their attention. Do not keep temptation beside you merely to prove that you can resist it. Strength is not measured by how close you can stand to what destroys you. Sometimes strength is demonstrated by leaving the room. Discipline also requires clarity. A vague intention is easily defeated. I want to improve my life gives the mind no specific action. I will work from 8 to 10 each morning without checking my phone gives the mind a clear instruction. Decide what you will do, when you will do it, and what must be removed during that period. Clarity reduces negotiation. If you wait until the moment arrives to decide, desire will participate in the decision. You planned to work, but now comfort feels persuasive. You intended to exercise, but the weather is not perfect. You wanted to maintain distance, but loneliness creates another excuse. Make important decisions when your mind is calm. Then allow discipline to carry out what wisdom already chose. Do not keep reopening the decision every time your mood changes. If you decided that someone's pattern is harmful, do not hold a new trial every lonely evening. If you decided that a habit is destroying your health, do not debate its value every time temptation appears. If you chose a meaningful goal, do not question the entire purpose every difficult morning. The mind uses repeated reconsideration to escape commitment. There is a time for reflection and adjustment, but not every emotion deserves a new decision. Discipline is protecting your wise decisions from your temporary moods. You must also become willing to be bored. Modern life teaches the mind to expect constant stimulation. The moment a task becomes slow, repetitive, or difficult, attention searches for something more exciting. But almost every meaningful achievement contains long periods of repetition. Growth is often boring before it becomes visible. The person building strength repeats basic movements. The person mastering a skill practices the same foundations. The person growing a business completes ordinary tasks no audience celebrates. The person healing the mind chooses the same healthy response many times before it becomes natural. If you always require excitement, you will abandon every path before it produces depth. Learn to find dignity in repetition. Each ordinary action is a vote for the person you want to become. One disciplined day may not change your life, but hundreds of disciplined days will. Do not underestimate the power of what appears small. A tree does not become powerful because of one dramatic day of growth. It grows through quiet processes repeated over time. Your mind develops in the same way. Each time you resist temptation, complete difficult work, or keep a boundary, roots are growing beneath what others can see. Results often remain invisible until enough disciplined actions have gathered. This is why many people quit too early. They assume nothing is happening because no external reward has appeared. They do not see that their attention is strengthening, self-trust is returning, and old habits are losing power. They abandon the process before the inner change reaches the surface. Do not measure discipline only by immediate results. Measure it by whether you are becoming more reliable to yourself. Are you reacting less quickly? Are you beginning tasks sooner? Are you keeping more promises? Are distractions losing control? Are you able to remain with discomfort longer? These changes matter even before the world notices them. The strongest discipline is often invisible. No one sees the message you chose not to send. No one applauds when you close the application and return to work. No audience celebrates the evening you remained faithful to your boundary. There may be no praise for the private battle you won. Learn to value victories that only you know occurred. If discipline depends on recognition, it becomes another form of attention-seeking. You must become capable of doing the right thing without witnesses. Character is what remains when applause is absent. There will also be days when you fail. You may break the routine, return to the habit, lose focus, or surrender to temptation. Do not allow one failure to become an identity. The undisciplined mind says, "I failed today, therefore I am incapable of change." This turns a moment into a permanent conclusion. A disciplined mind says, "I made a poor choice. What allowed it to happen? And what will I change next?" Examine the failure without humiliation. Were you exhausted? Was the goal unclear? Did you remain too close to a trigger? Did you expect perfection? Did one emotional event weaken your awareness? Find the point where the pattern began, not only the final action. Perhaps the failure began when you stopped sleeping properly. Perhaps it began when you allowed one small exception to become a daily excuse. Perhaps it began when you stopped remembering why the goal mattered. Correct the system, not only the moment. Then return quickly. The longer you remain in guilt, the harder restarting becomes. Guilt often pretends to be responsibility, but excessive guilt can become another form of avoidance. You spend energy hating yourself instead of changing your behavior. Take responsibility without building a home inside shame. Say, "This choice does not reflect who I am trying to become. I will begin again now, not tomorrow, not next week." The next wise action can happen immediately. A bad morning does not require a bad evening. One unhealthy meal does not require abandoning your health. One missed task does not ruin the week. One emotional message does not mean you must continue the argument. Stop turning mistakes into permission for further mistakes. Discipline includes the ability to recover. In fact, recovery may be more important than perfection because no person remains perfect. The one who succeeds is often not the person who never loses direction, but the person who notices quickly and returns. Another enemy of discipline is comparison. You see someone further ahead and become discouraged. Their progress makes your effort feel insignificant. You forget that you do not know their beginning, circumstances, support, sacrifices, or private struggles. Comparison weakens discipline because it shifts your attention from the work to your position in relation to others. Your task is not to move faster than everyone. Your task is to stop abandoning your own path. The person ahead of you does not block your progress. Their result does not remove your opportunity. Continue. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that craving often grows through comparison. You may be content until you see what someone else possesses. Suddenly your life feels incomplete. Desire is created not by genuine need, but by the belief that another person's life is evidence that yours is lacking. Be careful what you repeatedly observe. Some images do not inspire you. They quietly produce dissatisfaction. They make you chase goals that do not belong to your values. Discipline is not only forcing yourself to pursue more. Sometimes it is refusing desires that were created by comparison. Ask yourself, would I still want this if nobody else could see it? Would you want the achievement without praise, the possession without status, the relationship without public approval, the lifestyle without an audience? This question exposes desires built for appearance rather than meaning. A disciplined life is directed by values, not comparison. Values tell you what deserves your energy. Without clear values, discipline becomes scattered. You work hard at things that do not fulfill you, chase goals that impress others, and deny yourself rest for achievements you never truly wanted. Discipline should not make you efficient at living the wrong life. Before demanding more effort, decide what matters. Is it peace, health, family, integrity, wisdom, creative work, service, or freedom? Let these values shape the habits you build. When the reason is clear, the discomfort becomes easier to carry. A person who wakes early only because others say successful people do so may eventually quit. A person who wakes early because quiet morning work supports a deeply meaningful purpose has stronger motivation. Discipline needs a reason deeper than appearance. Remind yourself regularly why your choices matter. Do not wait until temptation appears. Write the consequences of returning to the old pattern. Remember how you felt when the habit controlled you. Remember the life you are trying to protect. The mind forgets pain when temptation becomes attractive. Keep the truth visible, but do not build discipline only from fear. Fear can start change, but it may not sustain it. You need a positive vision as well. What becomes possible when this habit loses power? How will your mind feel when you can trust your choices? What can you build with the time, energy, and attention you recover? Discipline is not merely refusing a harmful life. It is creating space for a meaningful one. When you stop spending hours on distraction, that time can become work, learning, rest, or connection. When you stop chasing someone, your energy can return to healing and purpose. When you stop obeying anger, relationships become safer. When you stop impulsive spending, future freedom grows. Every temptation you release makes room for something stronger. You should also distinguish between discipline and rigidity. Discipline serves life. Rigidity makes rules more important than wisdom. A disciplined person can adjust when health, family, or unexpected circumstances require change. They do not use one missed routine as evidence of moral failure. Flexibility does not mean weakness. It means the purpose remains stable even when the method changes. If you cannot complete your full routine, complete a smaller version. If you cannot work for 2 hours, work for 20 focused minutes. If travel changes your schedule, preserve the essential habit in another form. Avoid the all or nothing mind. It says, if I cannot do everything perfectly, there is no point doing anything. This thought protects laziness by disguising it as high standards. Something meaningful is better than nothing perfect. The smallest disciplined action keeps your identity alive. Rest is also part of discipline. Constant exhaustion is not proof of commitment. A person who never rests may eventually become too weak to continue. Discipline includes stopping before burnout, sleeping enough to think clearly, and recognizing when the body needs recovery. The difference between rest and avoidance is intention. Rest has a purpose and an ending. Avoidance keeps extending because the task creates discomfort. Ask, am I restoring my energy or escaping responsibility? Rest that restores you is wise. Comfort that keeps you trapped is not. Temptation often appears strongest when you are tired because the mind wants easy relief. This is why maintaining physical health supports emotional discipline. Sleep affects patience, attention, appetite, and impulse control. Movement affects mood and energy. Food affects clarity. Your spiritual and mental goals still live inside a physical body. Do not expect the mind to remain disciplined while continually neglecting the body that carries it. Build routines that make strength easier. Prepare the environment before temptation arrives. Decide what you will eat before hunger becomes extreme. Schedule work before distractions fill the day. Set boundaries before emotional pressure appears. Sleep before exhaustion weakens every decision. Preparation is discipline expressed in advance. You cannot remove every temptation, but you can stop being surprised by predictable weaknesses. Know when you are most vulnerable. Perhaps late nights create emotional decisions. Perhaps stress makes you spend, eat, or contact people impulsively. Perhaps criticism makes you abandon work. Create a plan for those moments. Say, when this feeling appears, I will do this instead. Replace rather than only remove. If you stop using the phone during anxiety, choose walking, writing, or breathing. If you stop contacting someone during loneliness, speak with a trustworthy friend or sit with the emotion. If you remove unhealthy food, prepare something better. An empty space often invites the old behavior back. Fill it intentionally. Discipline also develops through identity. Many people say, I am trying to become disciplined. This keeps discipline in the future. Begin saying through action, I am a person who keeps promises. I am a person who begins even when motivation is absent. I am a person who does not return to what destroys my peace. Identity becomes powerful when repeated behavior supports it. Do not claim an identity your actions constantly contradict. Build the evidence gradually. Each time you choose focus, you become more focused. Each boundary you keep makes you someone who protects their dignity. Each temptation you refuse makes you less controlled by desire. You do not become disciplined before acting. You become disciplined by acting. The old version of you may resist. Familiar habits will try to pull you back, because the mind prefers what it knows, even when what it knows is harmful. Change creates uncertainty, and uncertainty feels uncomfortable. You may begin missing the comfort of the old pattern. This does not mean it was good for you. It means it was familiar. Do not confuse familiarity with belonging. You can miss a person and still know the relationship was destructive. You can crave a habit and still know it weakens you. You can feel tempted to quit and still know the path deserves continuation. Feelings do not always provide direction. Sometimes discipline requires disappointing other people. When you become serious about your goals, boundaries, or healing, those who benefited from your lack of discipline may resist. They may call you unavailable, distant, boring, selfish, or changed. Perhaps you no longer join every distraction. Perhaps you refuse conversations built around gossip. Perhaps you leave earlier to protect your sleep. Perhaps you stop solving problems others should solve themselves. You do not have to become harsh, but you cannot build a meaningful life while remaining available for every demand. Every yes costs time, energy, and attention. Discipline means knowing which costs serve your values. Say no without creating a long defense. The people who respect your direction may not always agree, but they will learn that your time is not empty space waiting to be claimed. You must protect your attention because attention is the material from which your life is built. Whatever repeatedly receives your attention begins shaping your thoughts, emotions, and actions. If your attention belongs to distraction, your goals receive what remains. If it belongs to comparison, gratitude weakens. If it belongs to conflict, peace disappears. If it belongs to one person's behavior, your own life becomes neglected. Discipline is deciding where your mind will live. Do not allow every notification, opinion, memory, and desire to enter without permission. Set periods where your mind belongs to one task. Practice being fully present. When attention wanders, return without anger. Each return is a repetition strengthening concentration. At first, the mind may resist strongly. It has been trained to seek novelty. A few minutes of focus can feel uncomfortable. Do not interpret discomfort as inability. You are experiencing the weakness of an untrained muscle. Continue gently but firmly. Deep focus becomes easier when practiced. just as distraction becomes easier when repeated. The final purpose of discipline is not achievement alone, it is freedom. A person controlled by appetite is not free. A person who cannot remain away from their phone is not free. A person who always returns to someone who humiliates them is not free. A person who must obey every emotional urge is not free, even if nobody is physically controlling them. Freedom means having the power to choose against the desire of the moment. It means you can want something and still refuse it. You can feel anger and remain silent. You can feel fear and move forward. You can feel tired and complete what matters. You can feel lonely and refuse to return to disrespect. This is a deeper freedom than doing whatever you want. Doing whatever you want often means doing whatever your strongest impulse demands. True freedom is not the absence of restraint. It is the presence of conscious choice. The disciplined mind does not become lifeless. It enjoys pleasure without being owned by it. It rests without becoming trapped in comfort. It pursues goals without becoming consumed by results. It loves without sacrificing dignity. Discipline creates balance because desire no longer controls the entire direction. You may still experience temptation after years of growth. Mastery does not always mean the desire disappears. It means the desire can appear without moving you. The old impulse knocks, but you no longer automatically open the door. You recognize its voice. You remember its cost. You allow it to pass. This is victory. Not that the mind never asks for what is harmful, but that your answer becomes stronger. There will be no final day when discipline is permanently completed. It is renewed through choices. Every morning gives desire and wisdom another opportunity to compete. The person you become depends on which voice you repeatedly follow. Do not wait for a dramatic transformation. Protect today. Complete today's work. Refuse today's temptation. Keep today's promise. Tomorrow will be built from what you practice now. When discipline feels difficult, remember that regret is also difficult. Remaining trapped is difficult. Losing trust in yourself is difficult. Watching years disappear while repeating the same excuses is difficult. You do not get to choose a life without discomfort. You choose which discomfort creates your future. The discomfort of discipline produces strength. The discomfort of regret produces nothing except the wish that you had acted sooner. Choose the pain that transforms you. Build discipline stronger than desire and temptation, not because you must become perfect, but because your life deserves a leader stronger than every passing urge. Let desire speak, but do not let it command. Let temptation appear, but do not let it choose. Let discomfort rise, but do not let it turn you back. Keep walking until the actions that once required great force become part of your character. Keep your promises until your mind begins trusting your words again. Protect your attention until your goals receive your best energy rather than what distraction leaves behind. One day, you will look back and realize that the greatest transformation did not happen when life became easier. It happened when you stopped requiring ease before taking action. You became stronger because you worked without motivation, remained silent while anger demanded words, stayed away while loneliness demanded return, and continued while doubt demanded surrender. That is discipline. It is the quiet power to choose your future over your impulse, your values over your mood, and your freedom over every desire that once controlled your mind. 11. Step back and let people reveal their true nature. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning to stop forcing people to show you who you want them to be. You explain your needs, defend your boundaries, remind them of their promises, and give them chance after chance because you are still attached to the version of them you hoped would appear. But the more you interfere, the harder it becomes to see the truth. Sometimes clarity does not come from asking more questions. It comes from stepping back and watching what someone chooses when you are no longer guiding, reminding, chasing, or rescuing them. People reveal their true nature most clearly when they are free to act without pressure. Anyone can behave well when they fear losing you. Anyone can apologize when consequences are close. Anyone can promise change when they feel your distance. But character is not proven in one emotional moment. It is proven through what a person repeatedly chooses after the tension disappears and they believe everything has returned to normal. This is why stepping back is powerful. It removes your constant effort from the relationship and allows the pattern to become visible. When you stop initiating every conversation, you discover whether they ever intended to reach for you. When you stop reminding them of what hurts you, you discover whether your pain mattered enough for them to remember. When you stop solving every problem, you discover whether they are capable of responsibility. When you stop accepting excuses, you discover whether they are willing to change or only willing to speak about change. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment distorts perception. When you are deeply attached to an outcome, you do not see reality as it is. You see it through hope, fear, memory, and desire. You notice every small sign that supports what you want to believe and ignore the larger pattern that threatens it. One kind message makes you forget weeks of silence. One apology makes you overlook repeated disrespect. One peaceful day makes you believe the entire relationship has transformed. The mind does this because truth can be painful. It would rather hold a comforting illusion than accept an uncomfortable reality. But avoiding the truth does not protect you. It only delays the moment when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Stepping back does not mean becoming cold, manipulative, or distant simply to test people. It does not mean creating silence so they will chase you. That is still a form of control. You are not stepping back to provoke a reaction. You are stepping back to stop interfering with what their natural behavior is already trying to show you. There is a major difference between observation and manipulation. Manipulation says, "I will disappear so they become afraid and prove that they care." Observation says, "I will stop carrying the entire connection and see what remains." One seeks control, the other seeks clarity. When you are always present, always forgiving, always explaining, and always fixing, people may never need to reveal their true level of care. Your effort hides their lack of effort. Your patience hides their irresponsibility. Your loyalty hides their inconsistency. You keep the relationship alive so successfully that you never discover whether it could survive without your constant sacrifice. This is why some connections collapse the moment one person stops over-functioning. The relationship did not suddenly become weak. It was always weak. One person was simply using all their energy to prevent the weakness from being seen. You may have experienced this. You stopped sending the first message and the conversation disappeared. You stopped making plans and the meetings ended. You stopped apologizing for things you did not do and the relationship became silent. You stopped accepting disrespect and suddenly the person called you difficult. These moments hurt, but they also reveal the structure of the connection. If your presence is valued only when you are useful, compliant, available, and easy to control, then the person may not value you. They may value what you provide. This truth is difficult because many relationships contain affection and exploitation at the same time. Someone may care about you in their own way and still use your kindness. They may enjoy your presence and still refuse responsibility. They may not be completely heartless, yet their pattern may still be unhealthy for your life. You do not need to prove that someone is entirely bad before protecting yourself. Human beings are complex. A person can have good qualities and still be unsafe for your peace. They can make you laugh and still repeatedly disrespect you. They can support you in one area while manipulating you in another. They can speak about love while behaving without consideration. Do not reduce people to one label. Observe the complete pattern. The mind often resists this because it wants a simple answer. It asks, are they a good person or a bad person? But a more useful question is, what consistently happens to my mind, dignity, and peace when I remain close to them? This question returns your attention to reality. Some people reveal their true nature when you succeed. They celebrate you in small ways, but become uncomfortable when your growth becomes visible. They support you while you remain beneath them, but your confidence awakens competition. Their compliments become colder. Their jokes begin carrying hidden criticism. They minimize your progress or remind you of past mistakes whenever others recognize you. Envy does not always appear as open hostility. Sometimes it appears as reduced enthusiasm. It appears as silence when something good happens to you. It appears as advice designed to create doubt. It appears as constant comparison disguised as concern. Step back and observe who can celebrate your light without trying to make it smaller. A true friend does not need to become less so you can become more. They may have their own struggles, but your growth does not feel like an attack on their worth. They can be honest with you without using honesty to weaken your confidence. Other people reveal themselves when you are struggling. Some are present during celebration, but disappear when you need patience, support, or understanding. They enjoy the entertaining version of you, but avoid the wounded version. They want access to your energy, but not responsibility for emotional depth. This does not mean everyone must rescue you. People have limits, problems, and responsibilities of their own, but repeated absence during your hardest moments reveals something. If someone continually expects your support while disappearing whenever you need theirs, the relationship may be built on convenience rather than mutual care. Observe whether they ask how you are, and remain long enough to hear the answer. Observe whether they remember what you told them. Observe whether they make every conversation return to themselves. Care is often revealed through attention, not dramatic words. People also reveal themselves when they do not get what they want from you. Their behavior after hearing no often tells you more than their behavior after hearing yes. When you agree, help, forgive, lend, accommodate, or remain silent, they may appear kind. But the moment you create a boundary, their true relationship with your autonomy becomes visible. A respectful person may feel disappointed, but they still recognize your right to choose. A controlling person treats your boundary like betrayal. They may punish you with silence, anger, guilt, sarcasm, or accusations. Their kindness was conditional upon your obedience. Pay attention to who respects you when your answer is inconvenient. A person who values you as a human being understands that you have limits. A person who values only your usefulness sees those limits as obstacles. This is why boundaries are not only protection, they are also revelation. They reveal who loves you and who only loved access to you. They reveal who can communicate and who must control. They reveal who respects your individuality and who believes closeness gives them ownership. Do not be afraid of what boundaries expose. The truth may feel lonely, but false closeness is lonelier. People reveal themselves through consistency. Words can be created in seconds. Patterns require time. Anyone can say, "I care about you." The question is whether care appears in action when there is no immediate reward. Do they keep their word? Do they communicate honestly? Do they show respect when angry? Do they take responsibility after causing harm? Do they remember what matters to you? Do they make effort without being begged? Do they remain consistent when nobody is watching? Character lives inside these ordinary choices. Many people are attracted to dramatic expressions because they feel emotionally powerful. A long message, grand apology, expensive gift, or passionate promise can make the heart believe that everything has changed. But emotional intensity is not always emotional maturity. Someone may speak beautifully and still behave carelessly. They may make promises they genuinely believe in during the moment, yet lack the discipline to fulfill them. Their feelings may be real, but their character may be unreliable. Do not judge a relationship only by how strongly someone feels. Judge it by what their feelings repeatedly produce. Love that produces confusion, inconsistency, humiliation, and fear may not be love you can safely build a life around. A person can feel deeply and still lack the awareness required to treat you well. Step back from words and study consequences. When they apologize, does the behavior change? When they say they understand, do they remember later? When they promise effort, does the effort continue after you stop reminding them? When they claim you matter, does their life make room for you? The answer is not hidden. It is usually repeated. Another important revelation happens when you stop explaining yourself. Some people ask questions because they want understanding. Others ask because they want material to challenge, criticize, or use against you. The more you explain, the more they find new points to debate. You may spend hours trying to make someone see your intention, but they are not listening with curiosity. They are listening for weakness in your argument. They have already chosen their conclusion and are waiting for your words to support it. Step back. Speak clearly once. Then observe what they do with the truth. A sincere person may not agree immediately, but they will consider your perspective. They will ask questions without attacking. They will return after reflection. A person committed to misunderstanding you will twist even your calmest explanation. Do not keep entering a courtroom where the verdict was decided before you arrived. Silence can reveal whether the other person wanted resolution or only wanted control. When you stop defending yourself, the conversation may lose its energy because your reaction was the reward they were seeking. Some people need you to remain defensive because your confidence threatens their influence. As long as you keep explaining, they remain the judge and you remain the accused. The moment you stop asking for their approval, the structure collapses. Let people hold opinions you cannot control. Their interpretation does not become your identity simply because they repeat it. Stepping back is also necessary when you are emotionally attached to potential. You see who someone could become if they healed, matured, became disciplined, or finally understood your love. You focus on their best moments and imagine those moments becoming permanent. But you cannot build your future around another person's unrealized possibility. Potential is not commitment. Potential is not consistency. Potential is not evidence. A seed may contain the possibility of becoming a tree, but without water, soil, and care, possibility remains possibility. In the same way, a person may have the capacity to change, but unless they accept responsibility and practice different behavior, their potential cannot protect your peace. You may love who they could be, while suffering under who they repeatedly choose to be. Step back and observe whether they are actually moving toward growth or merely discussing it. Some people love the language of change because it protects them from the work of changing. They speak about healing, self-awareness, loyalty, and maturity, yet repeat the same destructive behavior. Words about transformation can become another disguise. Real change is usually quieter. It appears in fewer excuses, better decisions, consistent boundaries, and different responses under pressure. It does not constantly announce itself. It becomes visible. Give people time to demonstrate change, but do not give unlimited access while waiting. Forgiveness can happen immediately within your heart, but restored trust must be earned through consistency. This protects compassion from becoming foolishness. People reveal their true nature most clearly during conflict. Peaceful moments are easy. The difficult moment shows whether respect remains when emotions rise. Observe what they do when they are angry. Do they attack your deepest insecurities? Do they reveal private information? Do they threaten to leave to create fear? Do they disappear to punish you? Do they bring up old mistakes simply to cause pain? Anger does not create a completely different person. It often removes the filter that normally hides what is present. This does not mean every angry word reveals a permanent truth. People can say things they regret, but repeated cruelty during conflict is not an accident. It is a pattern. A healthy person may need space, speak imperfectly, or become defensive, but they can return with responsibility. They do not force you to carry the entire repair. They care about the impact, not only their intention. Watch whether they want to solve the problem or simply win. Someone who wants resolution is willing to listen, adjust, and consider your pain. Someone who wants victory needs you to become wrong so they can remain innocent. You cannot create a peaceful relationship with someone who experiences accountability as an attack. Step back and stop rescuing them from the consequences of their behavior. If they create distance, let them feel the distance. If they break trust, do not immediately return to normal because they appear uncomfortable. If they neglect responsibility, do not repeatedly complete it for them. Consequences are teachers. When you remove every consequence, you may unintentionally protect the pattern. This is especially important for people with kind hearts. Kindness often makes you want to reduce everyone's pain. You see their regret and immediately comfort them. You see their difficulty and take responsibility. You know they had a hard past, so you excuse present harm. But if your kindness constantly prevents another person from facing themselves, it is no longer helping them grow. It is helping them avoid growth. Allow people to experience the natural result of their choices. This does not mean becoming cruel. You are not trying to make them suffer. You are simply refusing to carry what belongs to them. If they chose silence, they must understand that closeness may weaken. If they repeatedly broke trust, they must accept that trust will not return through one apology. If they neglected you, they cannot demand the same access when they suddenly feel lonely. Your boundaries should not disappear merely because their consequences became uncomfortable. People also reveal themselves through how they treat those from whom they have nothing to gain. Notice how they speak to workers, strangers, older people, children, and those with less social power. A person may treat you wonderfully because they desire something from you. Their behavior toward people they do not need reveals deeper character. Courtesy that appears only around useful people is not true respect. It is strategy. Observe whether kindness is part of their nature or a tool they use selectively. Notice also how they speak about absent people. Someone who constantly reveals other people's secrets will eventually reveal yours. Someone who mocks every former friend or partner may one day describe you in the same way. A person who never accepts responsibility in any past relationship is unlikely to suddenly become accountable with you. Listen to the patterns inside their stories. If every former friend betrayed them, every former partner was terrible, every employer was unfair, and every conflict was someone else's fault, something may be missing from the story. This does not mean their pain is false. People can genuinely experience repeated mistreatment, but a complete absence of self-reflection should make you cautious. Mature people can speak about pain while still examining their own choices. They can say, "I was hurt, but I also ignored signs," or "They treated me badly, and I responded in ways I regret." Self-awareness appears through the ability to hold more than one truth. Do not ignore how someone describes everyone who left their life. One day, you may become part of the same description. Stepping back also reveals your own true nature. When you stop chasing, you may discover how dependent you had become on being chosen. When you stop explaining, you may feel panic because approval was supporting your identity. When you stop rescuing, guilt may appear because usefulness made you feel valuable. Observation is not only about judging others, it is about understanding yourself. Ask why you feel compelled to interfere. Are you afraid that if you stop trying, the relationship will disappear? Are you hoping that enough effort will turn inconsistency into commitment? Are you using another person's potential to avoid your own loneliness? Sometimes you keep forcing a connection because accepting its weakness would require you to face emptiness. You would rather keep working on a painful bond than sit inside the silence left by its absence. But silence can heal what constant confusion keeps wounded. Allow the empty space. Do not rush to fill it with another person, distraction, or false hope. Let the absence show you how much of your life was built around managing someone else. Return to your own routines, goals, friendships, health, and inner practice. You may realize that while watching another person's behavior, you stopped living your own life. Stepping back should not become passive waiting. You are not freezing your life until someone proves themselves. You are moving forward while allowing reality to become clear. Continue building your peace. Continue your work. Continue growing. If they return with genuine consistency, you can observe from a stronger place. If they disappear, your life has not been placed on hold. This is crucial. Many people say they are stepping back, but emotionally they are still standing at the door, listening for footsteps. They check messages, watch social media, ask mutual friends, and interpret every sign. Physical distance exists, but attachment remains active. True stepping back includes withdrawing your attention from constant monitoring. You do not need to know whether they miss you every hour. Missing you is not the same as being capable of treating you well. Regret is not the same as transformation. Loneliness may bring someone back even when their character has not changed. Do not confuse their return with your answer. If someone comes back, examine what has changed. Are they taking responsibility without blaming you? Can they clearly name the behavior that caused harm? Have they taken real steps toward growth? Do their actions remain different over time, or are they simply uncomfortable because they lost access? People often return when the consequences of their choices become real. They miss the support, attention, comfort, and stability you provided. But missing the benefits of your presence does not always mean they understand your value. Let time test their intention. Do not immediately reopen every door because the old emotion returns. Your heart may remember closeness faster than your mind remembers pain. Move slowly. Trust should be rebuilt through evidence, not nostalgia. Stepping back helps you recognize people who are truly aligned with your life. Healthy people do not require constant investigation because their words and actions create clarity. You do not have to decode every message, question every silence, or wonder which version of them will appear. This does not mean healthy relationships are perfect. Misunderstandings happen. People become busy, tired, afraid, or emotionally limited. But the overall pattern remains respectful. There is repair, honesty, and mutual effort. Peace is not the absence of all difficulty. It is the absence of constant emotional instability. Notice how your body feels around someone. Are you generally relaxed enough to be yourself, or constantly alert? Do you feel free to speak honestly, or carefully manage every word? Do you leave conversations feeling understood, or confused and drained? Your nervous system often notices inconsistency before your conscious mind accepts it. Do not ignore the repeated tightness, anxiety, and exhaustion simply because the person occasionally creates happiness. The body cannot remain peaceful in an environment it does not trust. At the same time, examine whether your anxiety comes from their behavior or your own unhealed fear. Not every uncomfortable feeling means the person is harmful. Past wounds can make healthy closeness feel dangerous. This is why observation must include facts. Look at patterns, not only feelings. Are they actually inconsistent? Do they repeatedly cross boundaries? Do their actions contradict their words? Or are they showing care while your fear continues expecting abandonment? Wisdom requires honesty in both directions. Do not excuse harmful behavior, but do not punish healthy people for what someone else did. A calm mind observes, without rushing toward either trust or suspicion. Let people earn closeness gradually. Trust does not need to be given completely on the first day. Observe how they behave over time, under pressure, around different people, and when they do not receive immediate reward. Healthy trust grows through repeated evidence. This approach protects you from both blind attachment and permanent defensiveness. You do not need to assume everyone is good. You also do not need to assume everyone will betray you. Remain open, but aware. People reveal themselves through small moments. Notice whether they keep simple promises. Notice whether they arrive when they said they would. Notice whether they respect your time. Notice whether they apologize when wrong. These details may look ordinary, but they predict larger behavior. Someone who is careless with small commitments may be careless with major ones. Someone who lies about small things may not suddenly become honest when the stakes grow. Someone who repeatedly dismisses small boundaries is unlikely to respect larger ones. Character appears before crisis if you are willing to look. The problem is that attraction, excitement, and hope can make small warning signs appear insignificant. You tell yourself you are overthinking. You explain the behavior away. You focus on chemistry instead of consistency. But chemistry tells you how strongly you feel. Character tells you how safely you can build. Do not let emotional intensity blind you to practical truth. A powerful connection may still be unhealthy. A calm connection may initially feel less exciting, especially if your nervous system has been trained to associate unpredictability with love. You may mistake chaos for passion and stability for boredom. Step back and ask whether the relationship brings growth or constant recovery. You should not need to heal from the same person every week. People also reveal themselves through how they handle your vulnerability. When you share fear, pain, weakness, or private information, do they treat it with care? Or do they use it later during conflict? Do they listen without mocking? Do they protect what you trusted them with? Vulnerability is not something everyone deserves. Do not reveal your deepest wounds simply because someone asks personal questions or creates quick emotional closeness. Some people collect intimacy before they have demonstrated responsibility. Let trust grow before access grows. A person's curiosity is not proof of their care. Observe what they do with what they learn. Someone safe does not use your pain to control you. They do not expose your secrets for attention. They do not repeatedly touch the wound simply because they know where it is. If someone weaponizes vulnerability once, take it seriously. If it becomes a pattern, remove access. You cannot remain emotionally open in a place where honesty becomes ammunition. Another truth is that people reveal their nature through how they respond when you become less useful to them. Perhaps you no longer have the money, influence, energy, or time you once had. Perhaps you cannot keep solving their problems. Watch whether their care changes. Some relationships are built around exchange without being honest about it. As long as you give, the bond appears strong. When you need support instead, the person becomes unavailable. This does not mean all relationships must be perfectly equal at every moment. At times, one person gives more because the other is struggling. The question is whether the willingness to give exists in both directions across time. Mutuality matters. You should not constantly feel like the emotional provider, problem solver, listener, helper, and forgiver, while receiving only words. Step back and see whether they notice your absence or only the absence of what you did for them. There may be pain in what you discover. You may realize that some people were never as close as you believed. You may see that your effort created an illusion of connection. You may understand that they liked your availability more than your soul. Do not let this truth make you bitter. Let it make you precise. Bitterness says, nobody can be trusted. Wisdom says, trust must be given according to evidence. You do not need to close your heart. You need to open your eyes. There are also people whose true nature will surprise you positively. When you stop carrying everything, they step forward. When you become quiet, they ask what is wrong. When you set a boundary, they respect it. When you succeed, they celebrate without competition. When you struggle, they remain without demanding performance. Stepping back does not only expose false connections, it reveals genuine ones. You begin appreciating the people who do not make you question your place in their life. Their care may be less dramatic, but it is steady. They do not appear only when they need something. They do not use confusion to keep you attached. Their presence creates less noise because it does not require constant decoding. Learn to value consistency more than intensity. A peaceful person may not always speak in grand promises, but their actions build trust. They may not chase you dramatically after conflict, but they return with maturity. They may not flatter you constantly, but they protect your dignity when you are absent. This is the type of character that can support a meaningful connection. The goal of observing people is not to become suspicious of every action. Constant suspicion is another form of fear. You do not need to analyze every message or search for hidden motives. Observe the larger pattern with patience. One late reply is not neglect. One mistake is not betrayal. One disagreement is not disrespect. Give people room to be human, but do not use humanity as an excuse for endless harm. The difference is repetition, responsibility, and repair. A healthy person makes mistakes but learns. An unhealthy pattern repeats, denies, and blames. Watch what happens after the problem. Do they become more aware, or only more skilled at apologizing? Do they make a different choice when the same situation returns? This is where truth becomes visible. Stepping back requires strength, because uncertainty may remain for a while. You want immediate answers, but character unfolds over time. You may feel tempted to ask, pressure, and demand reassurance. Let the uncertainty exist. You do not need to force a conclusion before enough evidence appears. The person who is genuine will not need constant management to remain genuine. The one who is inconsistent may reveal that without your interference. Time is one of the best protectors against illusion. False effort struggles to remain consistent. Manipulation often becomes impatient. Promises without substance weaken. Character continues. Move slowly enough to see. When you finally recognize someone's true nature, believe the complete pattern. Do not keep demanding a different truth simply because the real one hurts. Acceptance is painful, but resistance is exhausting. If they repeatedly lie, stop building trust around their words. If they disappear whenever responsibility appears, stop expecting stability. If they respect you only when you obey, stop calling it love. If they consistently show care, honesty, and effort, allow yourself to recognize that too. Seeing reality clearly does not mean focusing only on the negative. It means refusing to distort either direction. Some people see warning signs everywhere because fear controls them. Others ignore every warning because attachment controls them. Wisdom stands between these extremes. It watches, listens, remembers, and allows behavior to speak. Once the truth is clear, your next responsibility is choosing according to it. Awareness without action creates another form of suffering. You know the pattern, yet remain inside it, hoping knowledge alone will protect you. If someone reveals that they cannot respect your boundaries, adjust their access. If they reveal that they are unreliable, stop building important plans around their promises. If they reveal that they are safe, allow trust to grow. Your response should match the evidence. Do not keep giving permanent access to people who repeatedly reveal temporary care. At the same time, do not punish the trustworthy because you are afraid of being disappointed again. Let each person be judged by their own pattern. Stepping back returns you to dignity. You stop begging for honesty, chasing effort, and managing another person's character. You understand that their behavior belongs to them, while your boundary belongs to you. You cannot force truthfulness into a dishonest person. You cannot force loyalty into someone who enjoys options. You cannot force emotional maturity into someone who refuses self-examination. Your energy is better spent deciding what you will permit near your peace. This is the deepest meaning of stepping back. It is not only physical distance, it is the end of the belief that your effort can transform someone who is not choosing transformation. You release the role of teacher, rescuer, investigator, and emotional manager. You let them be who they are. Then you decide whether who they are belongs in the life you are building. This decision may require grief. You may love someone and still understand that their pattern cannot remain close. You may remember beautiful moments and still choose distance. You may wish them healing without volunteering to be harmed during the process. Love does not always require access. Sometimes the most honest form of love is releasing the struggle to change someone. You stop arguing with reality. You stop saying, but they could be different. You begin saying, this is what they are choosing now, and I must respond to what is real. That sentence brings peace because it ends the war between hope and evidence. Step back and let people reveal their true nature. Do not interrupt the truth with excuses. Do not cover their lack of effort with your own. Do not translate disrespect into pain, inconsistency into confusion, or manipulation into love. Observe patiently. Let time show you who remembers you without being reminded, who respects you without being threatened, who supports you without needing reward, and who remains honest when dishonesty would be easier. Let silence reveal who reaches out. Let boundaries reveal who respects you. Let success reveal who celebrates you. Let struggle reveal who stands beside you. Let conflict reveal who protects your dignity even while angry. Then believe what you see. People are always revealing themselves. The question is whether your attachment allows you to notice. When you stop forcing, the truth becomes quieter but clearer. You no longer need endless explanations. The pattern speaks. And when the pattern finally speaks, listen. Your peace depends not only on seeing people clearly, but on having the courage to act according to what they have shown you. 12. Become so complete that nothing outside can control you. The deepest form of freedom begins when you stop asking the outside world to complete what only inner awareness can build. Many people spend their entire lives searching for one person, one achievement, one possession, or one moment that will finally make them feel whole. They believe peace will arrive when someone chooses them, fear will disappear when life becomes secure, and confidence will appear when others recognize their value. But every external condition changes. People leave, success fades, attention moves, possessions lose their excitement, and certainty disappears without warning. If your sense of completeness depends on these things, your peace will constantly rise and fall with them. To become complete does not mean you stop loving people, pursuing meaningful goals, or enjoying what life gives you. It means you no longer ask temporary things to carry the full weight of your identity. You can love without begging. You can succeed without worshipping results. You can enjoy companionship without fearing every moment of solitude. You can appreciate approval without needing it to believe that you matter. Most emotional suffering begins when the mind says, "I cannot be peaceful unless this happens." You cannot be happy unless they return. You cannot move forward unless they apologize. You cannot feel confident unless people understand you. You cannot begin until fear disappears. You cannot enjoy life until the future becomes certain. Each condition places your freedom somewhere outside yourself. The moment your peace depends on someone else's behavior, that person gains power over your emotional state. If they respond warmly, you feel secure. If they become distant, you begin questioning yourself. If they praise you, you feel valuable. If they criticize you, you feel broken. Your emotions become a reflection of their choices, rather than an expression of your own awareness. This is why inner completeness is so powerful. It does not make you unaffected by life, but it prevents every external movement from becoming an inner collapse. A complete person may feel disappointment, but disappointment does not destroy their identity. They may experience rejection, but they do not conclude that they are worthless. They may grieve when someone leaves, but they do not chase the person until dignity disappears. They may fail, but failure does not become a permanent description of who they are. Their foundation stands deeper than the event. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment creates suffering because the mind clings to changing things and demands permanence from them. It wants people to remain the same, feelings to continue, success to last, and life to follow a predictable path. But reality keeps moving. The harder the mind tries to hold what is changing, the more exhausted it becomes. Imagine trying to hold water tightly inside your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster the water escapes. You may blame the water for leaving, but the suffering begins with the belief that it must remain inside your grasp. Life works the same way. Love deeply, but do not imprison. Appreciate what is present, but do not demand permanence. Build carefully, but understand that circumstances may change. When you accept movement as part of life, you stop treating every change like betrayal. Inner completeness begins with the willingness to sit with yourself without immediately searching for distraction. Many people fear silence because silence removes the noise that protects them from their own thoughts. They keep the television on, check messages constantly, scroll without purpose, and surround themselves with people because being alone forces them to meet what has been ignored. They say they are bored, but often they are uncomfortable with their own company. To become complete, you must learn to remain present when nobody is watching, praising, entertaining, or reassuring you. Sit quietly and notice the urge to escape. Notice how quickly the mind reaches for stimulation. Do not attack yourself for this. Simply observe. Ask, what appears when everything becomes quiet? Perhaps loneliness appears. Perhaps regret returns. Perhaps you remember the people you chased, the opportunities you avoided, and the promises you broke to yourself. Silence may initially feel painful because it reveals what noise kept hidden, but what is revealed can finally be healed. You cannot become complete by running from every uncomfortable feeling. You become complete by learning that no feeling has the power to destroy you when faced with awareness. Sadness can be felt, loneliness can be endured, fear can be observed, uncertainty can remain unanswered for a while. The more feelings you can experience without escaping into harmful habits, the less control those habits possess. You no longer need another person's attention every time loneliness appears. You no longer need impulsive pleasure every time boredom arrives. You no longer need to attack when insecurity is touched. Emotion becomes something you can hold with patience rather than something that must be immediately removed. This is one of the strongest signs of inner completeness. You stop demanding instant relief. You understand that discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes discomfort is the doorway through which growth enters. The first moment of solitude may feel empty, but with time it can become peaceful. The first boundary may feel guilty, but with practice it becomes dignity. The first honest decision may feel frightening, but eventually it becomes freedom. The incomplete mind always asks, how can I feel better right now? The complete mind asks, what choice will protect my peace after this feeling passes? This change in questioning transforms your life. You begin choosing according to values instead of impulse. You may still want to send the message, but you remember why distance was necessary. You may still desire attention, but you refuse to perform for people who do not respect you. You may still fear failure, but you take action because growth matters more than comfort. Completeness is not the absence of desire. It is the ability to desire something without allowing that desire to control your character. You can want someone to stay and still let them leave. You can want a certain outcome and still accept another. You can hope deeply while remaining capable of surviving disappointment. This is mature detachment. Some people believe detachment means becoming cold, distant, and uninterested in life. They think the only way to avoid pain is to avoid caring. But refusing to care is not freedom. It is fear wearing the mask of strength. True detachment allows the heart to remain open while the mind remains clear. You care, but you do not cling. You give, but you do not abandon yourself. You trust, but you continue observing. You love, but you do not beg for love to remain. The complete person is not empty of emotion. They are no longer ruled by it. They can say, I love you, but I will not accept repeated disrespect. They can say, this opportunity matters to me, but failure will not erase my worth. They can say, I enjoy your presence, but I will not make you responsible for my entire happiness. These statements do not weaken connection. They create healthier connection, because love is no longer carrying the burden of fear. A relationship becomes heavy when one person is expected to constantly prove that the other is worthy, lovable, safe, and complete. No human being can carry this responsibility forever. They will eventually fail to respond perfectly, provide enough reassurance, or meet every emotional need. If your identity depends completely on another person, even their ordinary limitations may feel like rejection. Inner completeness removes this impossible burden. You learn to receive love as a gift rather than demand it as proof that you exist. You may still need connection. Human beings are not meant to live without support, friendship, or compassion. Needing healthy interdependence is different from emotional dependence. Interdependence says, we support each other while remaining responsible for our own inner lives. Dependence says, you must behave in a certain way or I cannot remain stable. One creates partnership, the other creates control, fear, and resentment. To become complete, build a life with more than one source of meaning. Do not place your entire emotional world inside one relationship, one career, or one role. Care for your health, develop meaningful work, strengthen your spiritual understanding, build trustworthy friendships. Spend time in nature. Learn, create, serve, and rest. A life supported by many meaningful roots is harder to destroy when one branch breaks. This does not mean filling every moment with productivity. Completeness is not proving your worth through endless activity. Some people stop chasing relationships only to begin chasing achievement. They replace one attachment with another and call it growth. They work constantly because silence still frightens them. They need success because praise has become their new form of attention. They appear disciplined, but inside they remain controlled by the fear of being insignificant. Do not use achievement to hide from yourself. Your worth cannot depend on how much you produce. Work can express purpose, but it should not become evidence that you deserve to exist. Rest without guilt. Experience moments that are not useful, impressive, or visible. Sit under the sky without trying to turn the moment into progress. A complete life includes action and stillness. You must also release the belief that everyone needs to understand you before you can be peaceful. Some people will misinterpret your silence, boundaries, growth, and distance. They may call you selfish when you stop being easy to use. They may call you cold when you stop chasing. They may say you changed as though change were a betrayal. You will lose yourself if you keep returning to old patterns merely to protect other people's opinions. Let your life become honest even when honesty makes you less popular. The complete mind does not need unanimous approval. It listens to wise correction, examines itself carefully, and changes when necessary. But it does not surrender its identity to every judgment. Ask whether your actions align with truth, compassion, dignity, and awareness. If they do, continue. Some people may understand later, others may never understand. Your peace cannot remain trapped inside their interpretation. Another part of completeness is accepting that closure may not arrive in the form you desire. You may never receive the apology, explanation, or final conversation your mind keeps requesting. The person who hurt you may never recognize the depth of the damage. They may continue living as though nothing happened. The incomplete mind says, I cannot move forward until they admit the truth. But this gives the person who harmed you control over when your healing begins. Closure is sometimes something you create by accepting the pattern rather than receiving an explanation. Their repeated silence may be the explanation. Their lack of responsibility may be the answer. Their choice to leave may be the ending. You may not receive words that satisfy the mind, but reality may already be speaking clearly. You become complete when you stop waiting for the person who created confusion to become the source of your clarity. Give yourself permission to close the door without their agreement. You may still have unanswered questions, but not every question deserves the rest of your life. Some questions keep you emotionally connected to people who no longer belong in your future. Ask whether knowing the answer would truly change what happened. Would their explanation restore trust? Would their apology erase the pattern? Would understanding their reason make the harm acceptable? Sometimes the mind chases answers because it does not want to accept the ending. Let the ending be enough. Completeness also requires forgiveness. But forgiveness must be understood correctly. Forgiveness does not mean denying harm, restoring access, or pretending trust was never broken. It means refusing to carry another person's actions as permanent poison inside your mind. Anger may initially protect you. It tells you that what happened was wrong. It gives strength to create distance. But if anger becomes your identity, the person remains inside your life even after they are gone. They control your thoughts through resentment. You replay what happened, imagine revenge, and wait for regret. Your body continues reacting to someone who may no longer be present. Forgiveness releases this control. You can forgive and still maintain distance. You can wish someone healing without welcoming them back. You can stop hating them without pretending they are safe. Forgiveness belongs to your peace. Reconciliation requires evidence from both people. Do not confuse the two. Forgive yourself as well. You may regret how long you stayed, how much you tolerated, or how often you returned. You may feel ashamed that the warning signs were visible, but hope kept winning. Self-punishment will not return the lost time. It only allows the past to keep harming the present. Understand the version of you who made those choices. Perhaps you were lonely, perhaps you lacked boundaries, perhaps you believed patience could change someone. Perhaps you had not yet learned that love without respect is not enough. Take the lesson without turning your past self into an enemy. Say, I know more now, and I will live differently. Then prove it through your actions. Your completion grows every time you stop betraying yourself for temporary connection. It grows when you keep a boundary even though loneliness appears. It grows when you choose silence instead of begging to be understood. It grows when you complete meaningful work without applause. Self-respect is built through repeated evidence that you will not abandon yourself. Many people want confidence but continue making decisions that weaken self-trust. They return to what they promised to leave. They accept what they said they would never tolerate. They delay what they know they must begin. Then they wonder why their inner voice feels weak. Confidence is not created only by thinking positively. It is created when your behavior tells your mind, I protect you, I keep my word, I act according to truth, even when the choice is uncomfortable. Every promise you keep becomes part of your foundation. Start with small promises. Wake when you said you would. Complete one difficult task. Do not check the account you promised to stop watching. Do not contact the person whose pattern has already answered you. Spend 10 minutes in silence without distraction. These actions may appear small, but each one declares that your life is no longer controlled entirely by impulse. The more you trust yourself, the less desperately you need guarantees from others. You know that if someone leaves, you will care for yourself. If a plan fails, you will adapt. If people misunderstand you, you will remain grounded. If uncertainty appears, you will not immediately collapse. This is where fear begins losing its power. Fear grows when you believe you cannot handle what may happen. Inner completeness says, I may not control what happens, but I trust the person who will meet it. You become your own safe place. This does not mean you never seek help. Strength includes knowing when support is needed. A complete person can ask for guidance without surrendering responsibility. They can receive comfort without becoming dependent on constant rescue. They understand that needing help in a difficult season does not make them incomplete. Completeness is not isolation. It is the refusal to make another person completely responsible for your survival, identity, and peace. You can lean without losing your ability to stand. Another powerful practice is learning to enjoy what is present without constantly comparing it with what is missing. The mind often ignores the life it has because it is focused on the life it wants. You may have health, but think only about status. You may have loyal people, but chase attention from someone indifferent. You may have enough, but feel poor because someone else has more. Desire creates the illusion that peace is always somewhere ahead. Gratitude returns you to the reality that life is already happening. This does not mean you stop improving or accept harmful conditions. Gratitude and ambition can exist together. You can appreciate today while building tomorrow. The difference is that tomorrow is no longer required to rescue you from yourself. Look carefully at ordinary blessings, your breath, the ability to learn, one trustworthy person, one quiet room, one chance to begin again. These things may not feel dramatic, but peace often grows from what the distracted mind overlooks. The incomplete mind waits for a perfect life. The complete mind discovers depth inside the life that is present. This awareness makes you less vulnerable to manipulation. People often control you through what you believe you lack. Someone offers small attention because they know you fear loneliness. They create distance because they know you will chase. They threaten to leave because they know abandonment terrifies you. But when you become complete, these methods lose their power. You may still care if they leave, but you no longer destroy your dignity to prevent it. You may still enjoy attention, but you do not accept disrespect in exchange for it. You may still desire connection, but not at the cost of your peace. Manipulation depends on desperation. Inner completeness removes desperation. A manipulative person may increase pressure when they realize the old methods no longer work. They may accuse you of changing, becoming difficult, or no longer caring. They may offer temporary affection to restore access. Remain aware. Do not mistake their discomfort with your boundary as evidence that the boundary is wrong. It may simply mean they can no longer control you in the old way. Your calmness may disappoint those who benefited from your emotional reactions. Let them be disappointed. The purpose of your life is not to remain easy for everyone else to influence. As completeness grows, your relationships change. Some connections deepen because you no longer approach them with fear. You communicate more honestly, respect the other person's freedom, and stop demanding constant proof. Other connections weaken because they were built upon your insecurity, silence, or endless availability. The loss may hurt, but not every relationship can survive your growth. Some people loved the version of you who had no boundaries. They may not know how to relate to the person who now has self-respect. Do not shrink to preserve a connection that requires your weakness. A healthy person will adjust to your growth. They may need time, but they will respect your direction. They will not need you to remain wounded, so they can remain comfortable. The complete person also stops chasing people who have clearly chosen distance. They understand that love cannot be produced through persuasion. They may communicate once, speak honestly, and leave room for response, but they do not repeatedly beg another person to recognize their value. They know that someone's willingness to lose them does not make them worthless. It simply reveals where mutuality is absent. This creates a quiet dignity. You no longer need a dramatic final speech. You do not need revenge, public validation, or the satisfaction of watching someone regret their decision. You let them go and return to your life. The greatest sign that healing has occurred is not that they return. It is that their return is no longer required. You may still remember them, but the memory no longer controls your direction. You may wish them well, but your peace is no longer waiting outside their door. Completeness also changes your relationship with failure. The incomplete mind treats failure like exposure. It believes the mistake has revealed that you are not talented, worthy, or capable. Therefore, it avoids trying fully because partial effort protects the ego. If you never give everything, you can always say, "I could have succeeded if I had tried." But this protection keeps your potential imprisoned. A complete person can fail without losing identity because their worth is larger than one result. They can say, "This did not work. What can it teach me?" They examine strategy without attacking the self. Failure becomes information rather than humiliation. This allows them to take risks, begin again, and grow faster. Fear still appears, but it no longer has the final vote. You do not become fearless by guaranteeing success. You become fearless by understanding that failure cannot erase you. The same is true of loss. You do not become peaceful by making sure nothing leaves. You become peaceful by knowing that what remains within you is strong enough to continue. Everything external is borrowed. Your body, possessions, roles, reputation, and relationships exist within time. Awareness of this should not create despair. It should create gratitude and clarity. Hold what you love gently. Speak the words while there is time. Show appreciation while people are present. Use your abilities while the body allows. But do not pretend that holding tighter can make anything permanent. Impermanence gives life value. A flower is beautiful partly because it does not remain forever. A moment matters because it cannot be repeated exactly. When you accept this, you stop wasting the present through fear of the ending. You love without constantly asking, will this last? You live the moment honestly and allow tomorrow to reveal itself. Inner completeness does not happen once. It is practiced repeatedly. Old fears may return. You may feel the urge to chase, seek approval, control an outcome, or abandon yourself to keep someone close. Do not believe that the return of an old feeling means your growth has disappeared. Growth is shown through how you respond when the old feeling returns. You notice the urge and choose differently. You feel loneliness and remain loyal to your boundary. You feel fear and continue the task. You feel rejected and refuse to attack your worth. You feel misunderstood and resist the need to explain endlessly. Every new response weakens the old identity. There may be days when you feel powerful and other days when your inner foundation feels uncertain. Be patient. A stable mind is not built through one realization. It is built through thousands of choices made in ordinary moments. Do not demand perfection from your healing. Perfection is another form of attachment. You want to become so strong that you never feel pain, fear, or desire again. But this expectation creates shame whenever you remain human. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is to stop surrendering your entire life to each feeling. You can be complete and still have difficult days. You can be wise and still make mistakes. You can be peaceful and still need time to recover after loss. Completeness is not a flawless condition. It is a relationship of loyalty with yourself. It means that no matter what emotion arrives, you do not abandon your values. No matter who leaves, you do not chase until dignity disappears. No matter what fails, you do not decide that your life has no meaning. You remain, you listen, you learn, you adjust, you continue. Become so complete that praise does not make you arrogant and criticism does not make you collapse. Become so complete that love can enter your life without becoming a prison. Become so complete that solitude feels like space rather than punishment. Become so complete that you can lose what is temporary without losing what is essential. What is essential is your awareness, your integrity, your ability to begin again, your capacity to love wisely, and the quiet center that remains when the noise of the world becomes silent. Protect that center. Do not sell it for attention. Do not surrender it for affection. Do not trade it for approval, comfort, status, or temporary pleasure. The world will constantly offer exchanges. It will say, abandon your boundary and you will not be alone. Betray your values and you may become successful. Perform for people and they may notice you. Chase harder and perhaps they will choose you. Learn to recognize the cost. What appears to be connection may cost dignity. What appears to be success may cost peace. What appears to be comfort may cost freedom. Choose what does not require you to disappear. When you become complete, you do not need to announce it. It becomes visible in how calmly you leave disrespect, how patiently you face uncertainty, and how little energy you spend proving your worth. You become quieter because you no longer need everyone to agree. You become stronger because your actions are no longer directed by every emotion. You become kinder because you are not demanding that others fill emptiness inside you. Your presence becomes peaceful because you are no longer entering relationships with invisible demands. You do not say, make me feel valuable. You know your value and bring it into the relationship. You do not say, promise never to leave. You ask for honesty and accept that life can change. You do not say, "Save me from myself." You take responsibility for your own mind. This creates love with freedom instead of fear. The final lesson is simple, but living it requires courage. Stop waiting for the outside world to give you permission to be whole. No person can permanently provide the peace you refuse to build. No achievement can heal the identity you continuously abandon. No possession can satisfy a mind trained to believe that something more is always required. The search ends when you realize that completeness is not something you find. It is something you practice. You practice it when you accept yourself without stopping your growth. You practice it when you enjoy connection without clinging. You practice it when you face pain without making pain your identity. You practice it when you stop chasing what has chosen distance. There may still be things you want. Want them honestly, work for them sincerely, love people deeply, build a meaningful life, but remain rooted enough to say, "If life changes, I will not disappear." This is the heart of true mastery. Need nothing, not because you reject life, but because you refuse to make your peace dependent on what life may remove. Fear nothing, not because difficulty will never come, but because you trust your ability to meet it. Chase no one, not because people do not matter, but because genuine connection does not require the destruction of your dignity. When you live this way, the world does not become completely calm. People may still misunderstand you, loss may still arrive, fear may still whisper, and desire may still pull at the mind, but something within you becomes steady. You no longer move every time the outside world moves. You no longer collapse every time someone changes. You no longer ask temporary things to prove your permanent worth. You stand within yourself, not closed, not bitter, not empty, aware, disciplined, compassionate, and free. Let people come without making them your identity. Let people leave without taking your identity with them. Let success arrive without becoming your master. Let failure arrive without becoming your name. Welcome life, but cling to nothing. Because the moment you become complete within yourself, everything outside you loses the power to decide whether you are enough. And that is the final freedom of the mastered mind. You were never weak because life was too powerful. You felt weak because too many things outside you were controlling what happened inside you. But now you understand. You do not need to chase those who choose distance. You do not need attention to prove your worth. You do not need certainty before taking the next step, and you do not need fear to disappear before becoming brave. Let people come, and let people go. Let praise arrive, and let criticism pass. Let life change without allowing every change to destroy your peace. Need nothing, not because you have stopped caring, but because you have stopped depending. Fear nothing, not because pain will never come, but because you trust yourself to survive it. Chase no one, not because love has no value, but because real love will never require you to lose your dignity. From this moment forward, stop begging the world to remain the same. Master your desires, protect your attention, control your reactions, and become so complete that nothing outside you can decide whether you are enough. Because when the mind becomes free, rejection loses its power, silence loses its meaning, and loss can no longer take your identity. Walk forward calmly. What belongs in your life will meet you without being chased. What leaves was never meant to carry your peace, and what you build within yourself can never be taken away.